Well, good evening. Obviously, I'm Sheriff Joe Lombardo from Clark County, and I'm here to talk to you about the tragic event that's taken place, and it's currently taking place at the Mandalay Bay out on the Las Vegas Boulevard South. We experienced an active shooter situation approximately 10:08 p.m. tonight, this evening. We had calls come into dispatch of multiple shots being fired from the direction of the Mandalay Bay towards the Route 91 concert that was taking place on the east side of Las Vegas Boulevard. Through investigation and response, we determined there was a shooter on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. Officers responded to that location and engaged the suspect at that location. He is dead currently. He has been identified. He is a local resident. I will not release his name at this time. But we are interested in a companion that is traveling with him, and her name is, and I will provide you the name, so please be accurate on this, is Mary Lou Danley, Marilou, last name spelled Danley. She is a Asian female, approximately 4'11", 4'11", weight of 111 pounds. We have not located her at this time, and we are interested in talking to her for follow-up. 2 vehicles we're interested in locating, and we need your assistance with that. We have a Hyundai Tucson with Nevada plate 114 Baker 40B40, and a Chrysler Pacifica Touring Nevada plate 19D401. These are the plates registered to the suspect that we located at the Mandalay Bay. So there's a couple of things that need to occur at this time. One is the Red Cross is responding to the headquarters here at the police department at 400 South Martin Luther King to receive any phone calls from family members who are trying to locate their family that attended the concert and aren't unable to contact them. So that number will be established here shortly, and we'll get it out to you to publicize it here shortly. Additionally, anybody that may have cell phone video or any type of video associated with this event that would be a benefit to the investigation, please respond to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department headquarters at 400 South Martin Luther King, and we will take custody of that video. So if you have it, you evaluate it, and you think it would be a benefit, please bring that down to the headquarters. So family members, if you are unable to call or you do not want to wait for a call and you want to respond in person, we have set up a family retreat area for you to respond so we can help you locate your loved ones here at the headquarters. So you will be contacted by a police officer here at the headquarters, and they will direct you to where you need to go. Standing with me is Special Agent in charge of the FBI, Aaron Rouse. He is assisting with the investigation, which is ongoing. And then we have Fire Chief Greg Castle from Clark County Fire, and they are assisting with all the victims. Now, as far as number of victims, I cannot give you an accurate number at this point. We have well in the excess of 100 plus injured and excess of 20 plus that have died at this point. So we will get those numbers to you accurately as soon as we can. But please bear with us. This is an ongoing investigation, but we are comfortable that the primary aggressor in this event has expired or passed away and is no longer a threat. There's been multiple phone calls and accusations or conjecture coming through social media that there's multiple shooters at other resorts. That has been proven to be false. Additionally, there's been accusations or beliefs there's some explosives going off. That is also false. The only explosive contained in this event was from our SWAT team breaching the room. So please, we are pretty confident that there is no longer a threat other than we are attempting to locate the person of interest. Yeah, I have 2 police officers that are currently at the hospital, one in critical condition, the other one minor injuries. But there are other police officers that were off duty attending the concert that have expired. We don't have those individuals identified at this point. Right now, we believe it's 100 plus injured and 20 plus dead. Okay, and I don't want to give you an accurate number because I do not have it at this point. I still want them to shelter in place. They will be contacted by first responders, and they'll advise them when they're free to go. It's better to shelter in place than to be unaware. We believe there's a couple off-duty officers that were attending the concert that may have died. We don't have them identified yet. Well, it is. It's a devastating time, and it's unfortunate. And, you know, we have been talking about active shooters in the past, and it's unfortunate it did occur here. But we have responded to the scene, and we're doing the best we can to provide safety for the survivors. And right now, we believe it's a sole actor, a lone wolf type actor, and we have the place under control.
Can you provide any details on how he was taken down?
No, I cannot. All right, thank you very much. We'll do regular briefings, and we'll advise you of the schedule as they come forward. To give you an update on the situation as I know it at this point. I think it's very important for you to understand that this investigation is going to be long and contracted before we get to the bottom of everything associated with it. But it's one of the things I wanted to update you with is we have located the vehicles that I had put out in the first briefing, and we believe we're confident but not 100% sure we have located the female person of interest. So I want the people to feel confident and calm in that aspect, that we've accomplished a lot in a short period of time. Now, the number of injuries I do not know yet, but we are looking in excess of 50 individuals dead and over 200 individuals injured at this point. I do not want to give you an accurate number and it be wrong, so subsequently that is why I'm portraying it in that manner. Now, the suspect, I am going to provide you his identity at this point. His name is Stephen Paddock. Last name spelled P-A-D-D-O-C-K, with the date of birth of 4/9 of 1953. As far as his history and background, we haven't completed that part of the investigation yet, but we located numerous firearms within the room that he occupied, and that's, like I stated earlier, it's going to be a long and tedious investigation. Now, we're bringing in all the resources of the FBI to assist us in this investigation, in particular to their victim witness advocates and their CSI folks to help us process the scene and ensure that we're getting all the evidence that we can possibly obtain. Now, furthermore, I want to provide you the phone number that I said I would provide in the first briefing. That number for family and friends to get an update on loved ones is 1-866-535-5654. One more time, 1-866-535-5654. Obviously, this is a tragic incident and one that we've never experienced in this valley. So what we're going to try to do is the best we can to get our first responders back on their feet and responding and conducting a proper investigation and ensure that we have the safety of this community at heart. My condolences go out to the loved ones that lost their lives and their families, and we will do the best we can to make it as easy as possible for you to get information as we know it. I think it's important for you to see the FBI, County Fire, and Commissioner Sislak behind me. It shows that we have full support of all the government entities to solve this situation as soon as possible. Because there's some officers from other jurisdictions that was attending the concert, so I don't have an accurate number of that yet.
Have you gotten an update on your officers that have been injured?
One was critical, but he's stable, and one of my officers was off duty attending the concert and lost his life.
Can you give any more details about the firearms that were found in the room?
No, I don't have any more details on the firearms. All we know is they were rifles, and that's all I know at this point. We're executing a search warrant on the room as we speak.
Sheriff, how are you doing? These are your guys that were out there on the road. How are we handling?
We're holding up, and we're going to do the best we can. And I don't want to say that's what we're paid to do. It's because nobody's paid to do what we're experiencing right now. But in my preview of the police department, they're doing a fantastic job, and we're going to have to look out for their well-being moving forward.
You said there were numerous other firearms found in Stephen Paddock's room. Was that in his
In the room of the hotel. We have officers at his residence. We'll be executing a search warrant there also shortly.
How does the city recover from this? I mean, moving forward, how do
That's a hard question to answer at this point. It's too early in the process, and please give us time so we can do a good job. For those of you that don't know, I am Sheriff Lombardo for Clark County. I don't have very much more to update you with from our previous briefings. One thing in particular that has changed in the negative is our body count. You know what, that's the wrong way to say it. The number of people that have died associated with this event has increased. Right now we're using the number of 58. I just was informed that it may be 59 of an individual that may have expired at Sunrise Hospital. So in normal fashion, I do not want to give you bad information, so please do not press me on that number until we get further into this investigation. The number of injured, we are using the number of 515. And as you can tell, as the hours go by, that number continues to increase. We have not received any additional intelligence associated with the suspect. We have completed the search warrant in Mesquite. I am not aware of any derogatory information that we can utilize to furtherance of this investigation at this point, but we have just recovered items, and it will take a little while to evaluate that information. We have learned information of additional property in northern Nevada, and the FBI has responded to the location and will be serving a search warrant here shortly. We have completed the investigation at the room. We have collected all the items associated with the suspect, and we are in the recovery phase of that. The Mandalay Bay itself has gone back to service minus the 32nd floor, and they would like everybody advised that if they are separated from their hotel room, they have the ability to return to the hotel. Now the location in question, the concert hall, we will be in a long process of body recovery out there and evidence recovery and evidence documentation. So you're going to have to ask the public's patience and as we bring information forward. It's a long, laborious process to identify the victims and reunite them with the family members to advise them of their situation. So we still have the families responding to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department headquarters in order to conduct a reunification of their family or friends. Eventually, in the next few hours, actually, I don't want to give you a skewed timeline, but approximately 1 p.m. we will request the family members to respond to the convention center area to utilize a larger space, and we could bring in the victim advocates to assist with the family members in the long term. Right now it's just a temporary phase associated with the reunification. Additionally, we're asking to solely utilize United Blood Service for blood donation and UMC as the only places to donate blood. We had some resource issues associated with the laborers medical clinic. I applaud their effort to help us in that effort, but we have some resource issues associated with that. So better utilize lvmpd.com to ensure that you know where those United Blood Service locations are so we can get the needed life-saving blood for the victims associated with this. At this point, as you can tell, I have several individuals to my rear that would like to make comment. Reference the ISIS statement, I want to bring that up now. So I give the opportunity to Special Agent Rouse to respond to that from the FBI, and he will explain what we know now reference the ISIS claim in this individual. Thank you.
Good morning. As this event unfolds, we have determined to this point no connection with an international terrorist group. As this investigation continues, we will continue to work with our partners to ensure that this is factually, thoroughly, and absolutely investigated to be able to bring comfort and peace back to this community. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ruben Kiwen. I'm the congressman for the 4th Congressional District here in Nevada. I just want to say thank you to law enforcement and to all the first responders who are now fighting tirelessly to protect and save lives. I had the opportunity to stop by Sunrise Hospital earlier this morning. Saw firsthand a lot of the victims, a lot of the family members, but I also saw a lot of nurses and doctors that were working tirelessly to save lives. And today is a very sad day for Nevada. It's a very sad day for Las Vegas. But if anything good came out of this is that I saw humanity. I saw our community come together. I saw strangers helping strangers and saving lives. And so I do want to say thank you to the sheriff, and to Metro Police, to firefighters, the doctors, the nurses, and everybody who is working tirelessly to save lives at this precise moment. I know we're going to get through this, and our city will be stronger. Thank you so much.
I'm Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson, and on behalf of the Clark County DA's office, our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody associated with this event. Two of my young female prosecutors were actually at this concert close to the stage. And I've spoken to both of them this morning, and they're pretty rattled. They're pretty shaken up. This was a horrific event, to say the least. This is a classic WMD. This is a weapon and a man of mass destruction. What I'm pleased so much about is how this doesn't involve politics in the sense of Republican or Democrat. We are here. All of us are Nevadans. And I'm very proud to be present with the other leaders here because we're working together to get through this. I want to thank Sheriff Lombardo for your leadership in leading us through this terrible, terrible day. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you, Sheriff. I want to first off begin by thanking the Sheriff. I got down here 8 or 9 hours ago, and there weren't many of us here 8 or 9 hours ago. There was just a handful immediately after this incident. But I can tell you that our first responders, both the fire men and women of the fire department and Metro, were on their way in when this all happened. We've got first responders that are literally covered in blood as a result of this. There's a lot of victims have not been identified as of this point, but they have stepped up. It was a sole shooter. There is no further threat that we're aware of, no immediate threat. I want to assure everyone that's listening that here's our words, that Las Vegas is safe. The men and women at Mandalay Bay and MGM Resorts have been incredible in terms of communicating and working with the Sheriff's Office in order to assure us that everybody can be taken care of, get back into the rooms, and that they all understand that we are safe and we are doing everything humanly possible to protect all our tourists and our citizens in Clark County. That being said, the Sheriff and I have set up a GoFundMe account that some of you might have seen. We have been inundated with phone calls and emails and text messages of people asking what they can do. There's going to be a lot of family members that are going through an awful lot at this particular time. As the Sheriff said, we have over 500 in our hospitals being treated, and we need to provide them with some sort of support. So we have done that, and I just can't say enough about the fine men and women that are our first responders here in Clark County, and all of the cities and jurisdictions have pulled together. And I thank them all for that. We've pledged the full resources of Clark County to assist the Sheriff and the FBI in any way humanly possible. It will be at a service, and we ask for your prayers. God bless you.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I want to thank you all. I'm Mayor Carolyn Goodman of this great city, and absolutely mirror what Commissioner Sisolak had spoken to about the great response, rapid, thorough, of our first responders and law enforcement. I spent part of last night and was late this morning with you all because I was over at UMC in the trauma unit, and it's been a very, very difficult time for us. And as we look forward to continuing what our great city does, we offer a safe place. This is a crazed lunatic full of hate. We don't know much about his background, but it certainly is not an extension of what we believe in, what everybody who lives here and works here and those who visit here want to see. This is something that was simply outrageous, uncalled for, and so many innocent people, young people, children, parents, who've lost loved ones, and so many still suffering in the hospitals, gone through major surgery. We have some that were hit quite lightly with shrapnel as they were near the exits. It's been a hugely traumatic time for all of us and for our visitors who love country music, many of whom have come from the northern part of our states here and just really came here for a wonderful, safe time. We pride ourselves in our law enforcement. They are unequaled. They are so rapid to respond, so thorough in what they do, and our first responders have been simply phenomenal. It is a city and a community that has pulled together. Everybody is working so hard to make sure that we are taking care of the needs of the families and those who've lost loved ones. And it's just been a very, very traumatic time for everybody. The president gave a beautiful message, and he will be visiting us either sometime later today, tomorrow, or Wednesday. Great concern, and we just know that the entire community, I have so many mayors that have called, governors who have called me personally to express their support, help, and what we ask for is blood. That's the main thing right now, is that if our people want to do something and they are healthy, then please donate blood. We'll have plenty of banks available. Always call a hospital if you're unsure where to go. So thank you very much. And Madam Congresswoman, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step in front of you.
You always go before me, Mayor. It's a pleasure to follow you. Well, thank you very much. I'm Dina Titus. I represent Nevada's District 1. It includes the fabulous Las Vegas Strip, including the Mandalay Bay, where this horrendous act took place. You know, so many times I welcome people to Las Vegas and all the excitement and entertainment and fun it has to offer. Never thought I'd be standing here trying to offer solace and my office assistance to victims of something like this that would happen. All through the night we were briefed by law enforcement. I thank you, Sheriff, and your team for all that you did, and the first responders. Mainly we were trying to stay out of the way because you don't want to turn a personal tragedy into a political event. Today my office will be giving blood, as the mayor said. They appreciate your thoughts and prayers, but what they need is blood. We'll be open to do anything we can to assist. But you know, I've just been hearing all these stories of heroism that occurred in the midst of this tragedy. You had off-duty police officers who were there just for the concert, for an evening of fun, who were able to help people get shelter and who were able to identify the location of the shooter. And just random strangers, a friend of some of my staff members who lives in the district, said they were running, being trampled. Somebody just opened a van door and pulled them inside for shelter and safety. That's the kind of people we have here in Las Vegas who are willing to reach out and help one another. And so I thank all of our law enforcement. I thank the first responders, those in the hospitals where people are just in the halls, in the parking lot, trying to take care of so many. And please call on our office if there's any way we can be of assistance.
Thank you.
I'm Adam Laxalt, Nevada's Attorney General, and I want to echo what a lot of people have said today. I've been here since about 2 in the morning, and the job that Metro and our law enforcement and first responders have done is just absolutely remarkable. We've never been hit with such a tough situation in this city, and to see the poise and the pressure that they're able to perform under was truly astounding. I believe that they're always going to be able to get us out of these situations. Our law enforcement will be able to step up to the plate when we need them most. And of course, the city and our state will bounce back. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to add one more thing before we have the governor come up. I got to ask you to do something else. When you see one of these men or women wearing a badge or members of our fire department, tell them thank you. Their selfless actions saved the lives of hundreds of people. Not a dozen people, hundreds of people. This death count would have been many hundred more were it not for the brave work of every single one of these men and women that you see wearing a badge, members of our fire department, our first responders, our police department. So please, I encourage all of you watching, next time you see one, just say thank you. Appreciate that.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Governor Brian Sandoval. You know, I don't know if I have words to describe what we're going through and what these poor, unfortunate victims are going through. We're angry, we're grieving, we're confused, people are hurting. You know, I want to thank the sheriff and all the first responders. You know, I just had an opportunity to visit some of the patients in the hospital, and it's unimaginable what people are going through right now. You know, you got family members who are here and don't have anyone to reach out to. But the first responders and what they've done, it's their finest hour. Their finest hour. And the way that the sheriff and the Metropolitan Police Department have handled this event is unprecedented. The paramedics who came on the scene in basically what was a war zone and treated all those men, women, and kids. The healthcare professionals at the hospitals, the doctors who came from all over the valley to do whatever they could. And now, you know, we don't understand what's happened. And I'm sure we'll find out a little more from when Metro continues to do its investigation. I do know for everybody watching, and you know, I want to thank the President of the United States, the other governors that have reached out to me to offer their help and assistance. We need blood, so if anybody can contribute blood, anybody in the Las Vegas area or locally who can do that. But as we move on, we'll learn more. We're going to need this help. You know, this is obviously an unprecedented event in our nation's history, and we're going to have to learn from this. And we're going to have to fight through this. We have to stop and pray for the families and for the victims. We have to rely on our faith in a time like this to get us through all of it. You know, I couldn't be prouder of the way that Nevadans have responded to this and what they've done. Doctors and nurses and everyone else who's worked through the night to save lives. And they've told me they've saved lives that if not for their organization and their professionalism and their training. So again, Sheriff, thank you for the courage that you've shown. To the people that were at the concert, you see courage and compassion there. People helping total strangers, risking their own lives to help people. That really speaks highly to the character of America. So again, there's a lot to learn from all this. It was a cowardly, despicable act that I'm very angry about. There's not much we can do, but we can learn. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for everybody's care and concern. I said, you know, I'm really proud to be with everybody who's here, the mayor, the congressman, the attorney general, the sheriff, the congressman, our law enforcement. This is the Nevada family at its best. So God bless all of you. And God bless, most importantly, the families, the victims, the mothers, the fathers, the sons, the daughters, the aunts, the uncles, cousins, nephews, nieces, friends, and neighbors. And for everybody who's watching, please stop for a moment and pause and say a prayer for them. Thank you.
Sheriff Lombardo. Hold on a second. I'll take questions here just shortly. As you can see, we had the opportunity to have some of Nevada's delegation here today, and some are missing. But I don't want them slighted because they all reached out to me, Senator Heller, Senator Masto, and Congresswoman Rosen. They all reached out to me throughout this tragedy and offered their assistance. So I don't want them slighted just because they're not standing behind me. Additionally, I have a chief of police next to me, and that's Chief Troy Tanner of the Mesquite PD. He has been instrumental in the assistance of his folks towards us to help us complete this investigation. So I think it's appropriate that he gets recognized for their effort. And then Greg Castle, he's just very humble. He's obviously the Clark County Fire Chief, and he likes to stand in the back. But where we are different in our jurisdiction, as through my travels in comparison to other jurisdictions, we work very well with the fire department, and they did not hesitate to pair up with an officer and enter the fray. So I want to thank him for that. Thank you, Greg. So I'm happy to answer some questions. As you know, the investigation is continuing, so please do not get too detailed on your questions, because I probably will not be able to answer it at this time.
Sheriff Lombardo?
Yes, sir.
You know, the search of the resident out in the state, has anything been told there in the way of computer information or anything which gives anything towards motive of what this man might have? And you mentioned a second location in northern Nevada.
No, the second location is just based off assessor's records of ownership. We discovered that he owned another piece of property in northern Nevada. As far as the electronic evaluation, we haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. The only thing we are immediately aware in our position is additional firearms and ammunition.
People were hit with shrapnel at the exit. That's what Mayor Goodman said. I want you to follow up on that. And also, how did he get these weapons into the hotel room at Mandalay Bay?
Well, like I said, we're doing the investigation. I don't want to give you any inaccurate information, but we do know that he brought the weapons in on his own. In an original briefing, we believe that he was in partnership or companionship of a female, and we have determined the female is out of the country. So he brought these weapons in on his own. As far as method, I don't have the ability to give you an accurate picture.
Was the shooter known to local law enforcement here in Clark County or Las Vegas? Any prior charges or anything like that?
No, not at all. We've checked all the federal databases and local databases and state databases, and we had no knowledge of this individual.
Sheriff, are we going to change the designation on the woman who was involved with this man from a person of interest to a possible accomplice or suspect?
No, it's still we still consider her a person of interest. We have been in contact with her, and we plan to engage her upon her return to the country.
Do you have any idea how he was able to break through the windows? Was he able to open the windows, or did he smash the windows? Have you pieced that together?
We believe he had a device similar to a hammer to smash the windows.
Sheriff, so far I've heard a description of the suspect as a lone wolf. Is the investigation looking into any potential ties, even loose ties to extremist groups?
Well, obviously we will do that. We will run it down to the very end. But right now, at face value, we haven't been able to identify that.
Sheriff, you said he checked in on Thursday, the 28th, to the hotel.
I believe that's accurate.
Did he have tickets to the concert?
I have no idea. So.
Do you know what he has done between checking in and
no,
last night?
we're following up on that. There will be hours and hours and hours of video surveillance that we will have to recall with the cooperation of the MGM.
Sheriff, just to say price on his safety, we've seen your center upstairs where you keep,
The Fusion Center?
Correct. There are cameras everywhere. Practically every inch of the city is covering a camera. Outdoors, indoors. How could this happen?
Well, I don't understand what you're alluding to. How could it happen? This is an individual who was described as a lone wolf. I don't know how it could have been prevented if we didn't have any prior knowledge to this individual. It wasn't evident that he had weapons in his room. We have determined that there has been employees going to and fro from his room, and nothing nefarious was noticed at this point. That's what we know now. So.
Sheriff, first responders were integral to stopping more deaths. Can you describe how a multi-agency effort and strike teams were able to find the suspect?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely correct. So any special event that takes place in the southern Nevada region, it's required by NRS to supply police officers to ensure security. The Mandalay Bay did a great job of hiring police officers. They had sufficient staffing for the concert. And when this individual decided to fire upon the crowd, which was approximately 22,000 individuals, it's very difficult to manage that size crowd, and you have to ensure you have the proper staffing. And as described, Our officers responded immediately in conjunction with the fire department as soon as the fire department arrived, but they were able to identify where the weapon was being discharged from. In a proximity, it's hard to tell what floor it is from the outside, but once they gained entry into the hotel in conjunction with security and through phone calls from patrons, they were able to cull it down to a possible floor. Once they made entry onto the hallway, they immediately knew what room was in question.
Sheriff, there's some dramatic reports about what exactly happened in the room when SWAT officers entered, that maybe there was so much smoke from the shells that the smoke alarms were going off. Is there any truth to any of that? I
don't know. I haven't been told about any smoke alarms, but I know that he had killed himself, and exactly we'll have to go through our body-worn camera and existing video whether we engaged him at the same approximate time or not.
Sheriff, you said you didn't believe that this was connected to ISIS. Do you have any idea of what kind of motive we could be looking at this point?
No, ma'am. I can't get into the mind of a psychopath at this point.
Sheriff, on the investigation that's going on right now between at the site of the shooting, how extensive is it, and what are we talking about as far as Las Vegas Boulevard being shut down while the ballistics and the criminalists do their work out there?
Well, I believe we've got most of Las Vegas Boulevard open. Directly adjacent to the Mandalay, it still remains closed. We'll ensure that we go out to the proper intersections to limit the hindrance of traffic. But we're looking at a minimum of 12 additional hours for documentation of the crime scene and the removal of the bodies.
Do you know about how long he was able to shoot for, and do you happen to know if there was ever any return fire from officers on the ground in any way?
No, I don't. I'm not aware of any return fire, nor am I aware of the timeline. But we did have SWAT officers discharge weapons at the room location.
Is ATF checking the weapons right now to determine if indeed any of them were legal or illegally converted?
Yes, the federal or the FBI and the ATF is helping us with that aspect.
Sheriff, you mentioned whether any injured or deceased come from the hotel. Were they all in the concert, or were any in the hotel area?
I'm not sure, because we had people that were deceased and injured outside the vicinity of the concert area, so it would be hard to determine or make that determination at this point. We are obviously going to have to talk to all those injured individuals to make that assessment.
How many people who were injured were shot, and how many were injured running away?
I don't know, ma'am. The people have been displaced in 5 separate hospitals, so it's going to require an extensive review of that communication with them to determine that. So thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's time, and I appreciate everybody here to the back of me and their support of our police department. And we will keep you regularly updated. I can't give you an exact timeline at this point, but we will keep you informed as we receive information. Have a great day. Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm obviously Sheriff Lombardo, Clark County. This will be our 4th media briefing since the incident took place yesterday evening. I'm going to give you just a short synopsis of our updates, and then we have other individuals here standing behind me that are going to make some comments, reference other issues associated with today's events. So there's 2 things we're attempting to achieve. One is we have to finish processing the scenes. We have 3 separate scenes we are working out. Actually, it will be 4 at this point. So we have the 32nd floor, the room at the Mandalay Bay. We have the event location, the house in Mesquite, and then now we have SWAT standing by getting ready to hit the house in northern Nevada. At this point, we did, in the last briefing, I was unable to tell you what we retrieved from the house in Mesquite. We retrieved in the excess, Aaron, how many firearms was it? 18. In excess of 18 additional firearms, some explosives, and several thousand rounds of ammo, along with some electronic devices that we are evaluating at this point. I mentioned that SWAT is about to breach the house up in northern Nevada, and then I'm going to give you an update on the casualty numbers. We are currently standing at 527 for individuals injured, and individuals that have died or passed away, 59. So what we're doing at this point, we have several people calling about personal items located at the stadium. We are not done processing that scene yet, and once we are done processing the scene, we will make arrangements for people that attended the stadium that believe they have personal items there to respond to the area, and we will help you retrieve your items. At this point, I want to bring Greg Castle forward from the County Fire Department, and he will give you an update on the Family Resource Center. Prior to that, I think it's important and I appreciate for you to put this out, for the people's families that are responding to the Las Vegas area. Some local proprietaries have offered up rooms for the family members at no charge, and that is the Boyd Group, Stations Casinos, the South Point with Mr. Gone, and also Siegel Suites. So one more time, the Boyd Group, Stations Casinos, the South Point with Mr. Gone, and the Siegel Suites. So individuals responding to the Las Vegas area in need of accommodations, those individual properties will accommodate you. Besides the vigil at City Hall, there's an additional vigil at 5 p.m. at the Guardian Angel Cathedral, and that is adjacent to the Encore Hotel. Guardian Angel Cathedral at 5 p.m. So I'm happy to answer some questions at this time.
Was there any sort of manifesto or anything like that found in his hotel?
We haven't located anything of that description yet.
Sheriff, tell us how many guns were found in the room?
16 in the room.
16 in the room.
Can you tell us what kind of rifles he used to shoot?
We have calibers ranging from .308 to .223.
Is there any evidence that he videotaped himself, phone or laptop or any kind of device?
I'm not aware of that at this point.
Is there any sort of surveillance?
One at a time, please.
Is there any sort of surveillance that he had set up to protect himself?
I'm not aware of that. I've been hearing that, but I'm not completely aware of it to testify to it. So.
The woman that you were looking at as a person of interest that you determined you didn't think had anything to do with this, now that you have found 18 more guns in their home and they apparently shared a home, do you revisit that, and how could someone not know that all of that was inside their home?
I didn't say we were discontinuing the investigation into that female. We are continuing the investigation into that female. There are several questions that need to be answered, similar to what you propose, but she is currently out of the country. We are making arrangements to contact her upon her return.
Sheriff, she's in the Philippines?
No, I believe she's in Tokyo.
Sheriff, so 16 guns in the hotel room, 18 at the home in Mesquite. Were there any other weapons recovered as part of this?
We had a handgun also in the hotel room, and I'm not aware of any other weapons.
A handgun in addition to the 16?
Huh?
A handgun in addition to the 16, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you find anything in the suspect's car at Mandalay Bay?
Yes, we found some, I believe it was fertilizer. Is that correct, Todd?
I don't know.
Ammonia sulfate. I can't recall the chemical compound. What is it?
Ammonium nitrate.
Ammonium nitrate within the car. We didn't have any compounds additional to that.
Sheriff, you mentioned finding explosives at the Mesquite home itself.
Correct.
What are we talking about? The improvised stuff, Anto?
No, I believe it was tannerite. I believe it was tannerite.
Have you been investigating any kind of a gambling debt, like huge,
No, I also saw that on the internet and presented in the internet. I believe some journalism research produced that, but we haven't had the opportunity to evaluate it.
Sheriff, why is SWAT team up north? Why are you sending a SWAT team up north? Do you know what's in that house?
No, we don't, ma'am. We have to, as part of the SWAT team is attachment of our armor personnel or our bomb squad, and we want to ensure that there's no booby traps available.
Did you use that in Mesquite as well?
Yes, we did.
Were any of the weapons modified from their original purchase? I mean,
We believe so. We haven't broken them down. The ATF hasn't evaluated them yet, but we believe, I don't know if the sear pins have been filed or whether they've been converted to fully automatic.
Would the weapons be characterized as assault weapons?
Slow down, please.
Have we found anything in any of the places that you've searched? Computer hard drives?
Yes, we have.
Anything else like that?
Yes, we have. We haven't evaluated them yet. The FBI has given us their resources to evaluate those.
Would the weapons be characterized as assault weapons?
Yes.
Would they be? Were any of them modified or purchased automatic?
I'm not aware of that. We are aware of one gun dealer that has come forward to say that he had sold the weapons to the suspect, but we are aware of some other individuals that are engaged in those transactions.
One dealer in Las Vegas.
Huh?
Gun dealer in Las Vegas?
I'm not aware of Las Vegas. We're aware of Arizona so far, but we're working on
Was this
further.
just as simple as he had a huge suitcase and brought it all in himself? Or how did he
No, there were several suitcases. I can't give you the exact number, but it was in excess of 10. So,
Do you know how long he was in the hotel for?
from the 28th.
So he methodically just kept bringing suitcases back and forth, and no one thought the wiser. Or maybe they, it's a big place. I get it, but
I wish that would have happened, ma'am.
Is there any
Absolutely wish
evidence
that would have happened.
He visited the Harvest Festival during that time since he checked in?
We don't have any evidence of that.
Did he have a working motive at this point?
No, we don't.
Did he stay in one room, two?
It was one large suite that had 2 rooms.
Can you explain what led you to the 29th floor instead of the 32nd and just how you got to
In the interaction with security, they believed it was between the 29th and the 32nd floor. And we had to evaluate each floor moving up.
Is there any
Did you
belief
find
that
the
he
room
was
because of the
here
smoke?
prior to this weekend? Maybe there was some talk that he might have been at Life is Beautiful or a different music festival?
We are researching that. We had information that he may have attended Life is Beautiful, but we haven't confirmed it yet.
Did you find the room because of the smoke detector, because of the broken window? What led
No, we had complaints from customers into security.
And did a SWAT team break down the door?
Yes, they did.
Was he engaged by security before police arrived?
No, he engaged security. He shot through the doorway and struck security guard.
Was unspent ammunition found in the room?
Yes.
Did you say how much?
I don't know.
Was the security guard killed?
Okay, please slow down. Okay? I don't think as fast as you.
Was the security guard killed who was shot?
No, he wasn't. He was shot in the leg.
Sheriff, there are reports the shooter might have been employed by a federal agency. Is there any truth to that?
I can't confirm that or deny it. We are still evaluating that.
Sheriff, it might be a little soon to broach this idea, but are you and some of the casino owners and the property owners starting to think about plans for reevaluation and enhancement of security?
Target hardening, absolutely. That's a continual conversation. Recently, everyone is very aware of the Bollard project, and that was the intent to prevent any harm associated with that. So target hardening, evaluating customers will be a continual basis.
Can you expand on the relationship between the man and his roommate?
We believe they're, my understanding, they're boyfriend-girlfriend.
Sheriff, what's the distance from the room to where the shots landed?
I would measure by sight, just through my hunting background, in excess of 500 yards.
Did he use scope?
He had scope on some of the rifles.
And did he use multiple rifles during the assault?
Yes, he did. I don't know whether he used all of them or not, Ken. I don't know that yet. We have to break them down and evaluate them.
Sheriff, I heard on coming in from the airport, they had a witness who said an officer shielded them. I just want you to expand on the role of your officers during this emergency and let us know how they're doing too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very difficult question. Well, it's not difficult. It's a very hard question for me to answer because of what they did, the heroic acts. Quite often we're the ones that go in when everybody's running the other way. And then in case in point, this event, that's exactly what occurred. And we asked the officers who are well trained to address these type of events, active shooter events. But this is different than anything they've trained for because the active shooter is unreachable. So our intent is life safety. That's our first priority in law enforcement, and I'm very proud of what our officers did.
We heard earlier 4 minutes. Was it 4 minutes?
I couldn't give you, I don't even want to guess on a time, Ken. You probably do a better job than me with the evaluation of the video.
Has ATF given you a timeline on when they can expect the traces to be done, and what are you expecting to learn from
I believe that in short order. I'm hoping we'll get that. Aaron, you have any timeline on that? I would anticipate in the next day or two.
Sheriff, ISIS is still claiming responsibility for this.
Good for them.
Evidence of that?
Huh?
Do you have anything?
No, we have no evidence of that.
Sheriff, when he was engaging with your officers, was there anything said? Did he yell anything?
I'm not aware of anything. So we do our standard announcements before entry.
Sheriff, you mentioned tannerite was found in the vehicle. Can you explain?
No, not in the vehicle, in the home.
Excuse me, in the home. Can you explain a little bit more what exactly that item is, what it's used for? Is this the explosive that's used in exploding targets?
Yes, exactly. You could buy it at any gun store. I don't know what the regulations is on amount. I don't want to give you a bad amount, but it's available, commercially available.
Did you say how much was found at the house?
No, I can't recall. I was told, but I can't recall.
Sheriff, do you have any?
Several pounds.
Sheriff, do you have any information often, or were scouting out locations in the weeks leading up to this?
No, ma'am. Other than what's possibly been presented with Life is Beautiful, and he does live in close vicinity of Las Vegas in excess of a year, that being in Mesquite.
Does that Players Club card that was found in there give any indication that he was familiar with that specific hotel?
No, because the Player Club's card did not belong to him.
Do you have evidence he stayed at the Mandalay Bay before?
No, I don't. I'm not aware of it.
Some of the folks in Mesquite don't seem to know who he is, think he might not have actually held his primary residence there. He's got the house up in Reno. Do you know where he actually physically lived?
I believe it was Mesquite. I think I saw a posting, depending on the accuracy of the internet, that the neighbors were familiar with the individual, but he was reclusive.
Can you walk us through it all from the minute that the shots rang out to how you guys got to the hotel room?
No, all the officers, this will be the last question for you. All the officers were assigned to the event. We do have officers that were assigned for other events inside the Mandalay Bay as a matter of weekly practice, specifically the nightclubs. But I'm sure they were not aware of what was taking place, similar to the officers at the event. Officers took it upon themselves to help the customers exit the grounds, and some officers took it upon themselves to immediately go to the Mandalay Bay. There was a team of 6 officers that approached security. They went up the elevators after discussing the situation with the security and obtaining intelligence. And they checked each floor by floor until they located where they believed to be the room. Subsequently, they approached the room, received gunfire, they backed off, and SWAT responded.
And there was no smoke alarm?
I don't recall a smoke alarm. So thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's time and your patience. And we will update you later this evening. Todd, do you have a time you want to update them?
7 o'clock, 7 p.m.
We'll shoot for 7 p.m. tonight for updates of any new information.
We'll be back here, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Assistant Sheriff Todd Fasula from Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I'd like to update you on the ongoing incident that our officers are working on from the Las Vegas Strip, which happened less than 24 hours ago. We'd like to update you on some key elements of the investigation. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department is working on 2 fronts to process the crime scene and also investigate the motive of the shooter. Metro and its partners have executed a search warrant at the home of Stephen Craig Paddock in Mesquite, Nevada. Detectives are combing through evidence to uncover the motive behind the shooting and any other pertinent information that will help shed light on this horrible event. We have recovered 23 firearms at Mandalay Bay and 19 firearms at his home in Mesquite. I want to emphasize we believe Paddock is solely responsible for this heinous act. We are aware of the rumors outside of the media and also on social media that there was more than one assailant. We have no information or evidence to support that theory or that rumor. We believe there was only one shooter, and that was Stephen Paddock. We are doing a thorough investigation and only want to provide what is accurate to you. We will only give information that we have vetted and know to be true. I will not be speaking or answering questions on issues that we do not have the facts yet. The latest estimate on the number of injured still stands at 527, which the sheriff put out earlier this afternoon. We have 59 that are deceased. Our homicide detectives are working around the clock to process the scene as soon as they possibly can. We understand that there are personal belongings that people need to retrieve from all of the locations. Once we come close to clearing that scene, we will provide more information for how people can get their belongings, and we are coordinating that with the local hotels and with the venue so that people can get their belongings back. The Family Resource Center will play a role in that task. We want people to know that the center is up and running at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and we are asking families and friends who live in Las Vegas to physically go to that center, which is located at the Convention Center. The hotline number has changed due to some technical difficulties. That new number is 1-800-536-9488. Again, that is 1-800-536-9488. The number that we gave out previously is no longer in use. However, if you are a local person from Las Vegas and are looking for a loved one, please go down to the Family Resource Center in person. That is the best way to get assistance. I also want to comment on some steps that MGM Resorts has taken. They are coordinating rooms at no cost at the Bellagio for families that are coming into town. They are also coordinating travel through Southwest Airlines. They are coordinating crisis counselors for people that worked as vendors, employees, and guests. And the American Red Cross has been given space over at Circus to establish a headquarters for the local community until they get some national assets in. We've had an overwhelming turnout of people standing in line to donate blood at the United Blood Services and at UMC, but they cannot take any more people right now. We are asking that you not go down there until at least tomorrow afternoon, if not the next day. They have enough supply to last them for the foreseeable future. People are also donating food in large amounts. While the gesture is appreciated, Metro does not have the ability to coordinate delivery or distribution, and we're asking that if you are going to donate food, do so with either bottled water or sealed food to the Red Cross at 1771 East Flamingo. There have been a remarkable amount of support from our community. We have been asked by concerned individuals from near and far asking how they can help. At this time, the GoFundMe page set up for the victims by Commissioner Sisolak and Sheriff Lombardo is the best mechanism to show your support to the victims. We do not anticipate having any further updates tonight. When we do have further updates tomorrow, we will send out a press release notifying you that we will be giving more information. These past 20 hours have been trying, and we know we have a long way to go. I'm proud of the courage and resiliency displayed by all our first responders on this event. I also want to appeal to you in the public and the media. We know of no known threats in our Las Vegas area. If we did know of anything that could harm the safety and security of our citizens, we would tell you that, and our department would act upon that. Please allow our department the ability to do what they do the best: investigate crime and keep you safe. I'll take a small number of questions, and then we'll end it for tonight.
Mr. Assistant Sheriff, you went to 23 guns. Are they all rifles? And how do we explain the difference from 17?
Well, Ken, like the sheriff explained earlier today, and as I explained moments ago, our information as the investigation continues can change. We put out the information that we have at that moment in time, and sometimes those numbers will change. But there are 23 firearms at Mandalay Bay and 19 out of his house.
What's next in the investigation? Is it a homicide investigation? Are state detectives involved? Is this case putting a strain on your manpower?
So I can tell you that it's a homicide investigation, and homicide is investigating that specific aspect of the crime. We have every resource available on our agency working, and I can assure you that the sheriff has made a point that we have resources both in the neighborhoods and around the community, as well as the Las Vegas Strip and downtown. That has not diminished, it actually has increased.
Have you found anything in relation to
Hold on, one at a time.
Any Chinese confirmed right now?
Pardon me?
Chinese victim? Chinese victims.
I have not personally gone through the entire list of victims, so I can't answer that question for you right now. Hold on.
The majority of the people in the world are not trained like yourself to know what to do when gunfire, happens. If last night Jason Aldean had managed to say to the crowd, take cover before he ran off stage and took cover, do you think this could have saved lives?
I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what Jason Aldean was thinking when he was on the stage. I do know that a common thing is when people hear gunfire, they run for cover, right? That's a natural human instinct. I don't know what he said before he left the stage, but the investigation will bring that out.
How long did Paddock shoot for? How long did Paddock shoot for? Was it continuous, or did he stop? And how long do you think the shooting actually lasted? How long was he shooting out the crowd?
We are still putting that timeline together.
Sheriff,
Mr. Assistant Sheriff.
Can you give us a timeline of his movements?
When did he shoot the security guard, and did he continue shooting out of the window after he shot the security guard?
I know that he shot the one security guard up on the 32nd floor, but I don't know if he continued to shoot after that or not.
Have you found anything in the North Nevada homes?
Hold on.
Detail on his movements, 24, 48, 72 hours before the shooting.
That's
Any detail on what he did, where he went.
That's what our detectives and our partners are working on right now. It will be some time before we are able to give you that in a chronological order and with a amount of confidence that it's accurate.
Did you find anything in the Northern Nevada home? Have you made any progress at all on his motives? There's reports that he was sending money to the Philippines.
So like I said earlier, we're hunting down and tracing down every single clue that we can get in his background. Until we confirm all of those things that are floating around out in the media and in social media, I can't comment on that.
Have you found anything in other
Nevada?
Two questions. Any timetable for when you're going to get those hard drives opened up and look into them that you found in Mesquite? Second question, did he specifically request that hotel room at the Mandalay Bay?
No, we don't have a specific timeline.
Did he request that hotel room?
I don't know that yet.
Did he have a computer in the room?
We did see several pieces of media, including a computer.
Have you examined it? Does it give you anything about motive?
It's ongoing.
Special Agent Rouse, one other question. After the raid in Reno, can you tell us anything about what was taken there, if any weapons, explosives, computers, or clues that give us something about motive?
Nothing that I can speak of, and that scene is still being resolved as we speak.
Let me emphasize something to you that might help. I know that you are all very eager to find out exactly what his motive was or what was going through his head or what he was doing up to 2 weeks ago. I promise you the sheriff will provide that information when we have confirmed it. It doesn't make sense for us to put out information that is not accurate and isn't timely and reliable. So please have some patience with our agency and our partners to get you that information. I promise you we will provide it to you when the time comes.
Can you explain how he got that many guns into a hotel?
What was your question, sir?
Just what time exactly did his room get breached?
I don't have. Do you guys have that? No.
I imagine someone must have that. Right?
We have a time log of everything that we do, and that's what the detectives will be putting together as part of their investigation, is from start to finish and including that entire timeline. So we'll probably have more information on that probably tomorrow. So I'm going to take 2 more questions and then we're going to be done for the night.
How many
For
guns
the,
got
for
into
the
the
families,
hotel?
sir, the Family Resource Center, is that just for families who are looking for loved ones, or is that where they go if they need help? Like the resources that are being provided for them?
They can go there for help and resources, okay? If they're looking for a loved one or a friend and they're in town, they need to go there. It's at the convention center. Or the ones that are coming in, they can go there as well. They also have that 800 number that they can call ahead of time if they need to find out a piece of information in the back.
Specifically about that search warrant, the additional one that you guys executed today, you were originally saying Northern Nevada. Can you now confirm that that was in Reno?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any sense of how he was able to get that many guns into that hotel?
No, but I can tell you that that's part of our investigation of determining just that. Obviously, every hotel has video. I'm sure that we're going back and reviewing every ounce of that.
Do you expect to find any more guns as part of the investigation? Like, is that possible that that number will go up even further?
I would say that in the areas that we've been so far, I would say no. But until we're done with the investigation, I'm not going to marry to that number.
Last one. Any other rooms at the hotel?
Not other than what the sheriff put out today at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock.
Are we confident that we've got all the guns out of the suite with the 2 rooms from which shots were fired?
Yes.
So you're confident that you have all the guns?
I'm confident in the number that I gave you of what we have recovered.
Can you give
some
clarification on the
All right,
suspect?
that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so as matter as formality, our department has worked through the night to identify all the victims of Sunday evening's mass shooting at the Route 91 Harvest Festival. We have identified all but 3 victims. We still have an active scene at the grounds near Mandalay Bay, so we ask anyone to stay away from that area until further notice. The FBI is working diligently to clear that scene. So the question is the FBI versus us. We have partnered with the FBI, as I said, from the very beginning of this in the investigative phase. The FBI has brought a large amount of resources out of Washington, D.C. to assist us with that. So the reason why the Harvest Festival is still in continuation of investigation is not only solely related to the removal of the victims, but is also documentation of the scene. So we're using the best practice technology to ensure that we have complete documentation. That's why it's taking a longer period of time associated with this. So we ask for everybody's patience. As far as Las Vegas Boulevard, north and south, we anticipate to be open shortly in the next few hours to benefit with commerce and what we do as a community. All right, the key component here is resources and victim identification. So bear with me. I'm going to try to get through this as best I can, but the important piece is if you missed a number, we are putting up on lvmpd.com in the next hour the listing of all numbers I shall provide you today, and for people out in the public to contact us if they are lacking this or they don't see this broadcast. Okay, we're asking for anyone who might have information about the shooting in a criminal capacity or is a victim of the shooting to contact us via 311. If you are out of state, if you have left since the shooting and you have discovered you feel that you have become a victim, or if you realize you have an injury associated to it, we're still asking you to contact us, but the out-of-state number will be 702-828-3111. Additionally, if you are local and you have the ability to respond to a local substation, a working police substation, locals are familiar with, you have the ability to file a report at that location. Now, the family reunification. All that is occurring at the Family Resource Center at the Convention Center located at 3150 Paradise Road. You can go there to file a missing person report. You can go there to have contact with the coroner's office. You can go there to get answers to your questions as far as family reunification. The phone number, if you have left the area, is 1-866-535-5654. Now, we went through a little short process here recently where that number was down. We provided a separate number, but we will go back to that original number because we have the technical aspects of that fixed. So I want to be very clear on the difference. If you are reporting a crime or you feel you are a victim of a crime, 311 is your outlet or a local police substation. If you are looking for victim information or family reunification, the Family Resource Center on Paradise Road is your point of contact. Now, personal property. We were getting several questions throughout yesterday and continuing today on people attempting to recover their personal property from the Route 91 scene. We are working out the details of that. We're in the planning phase of that, and we will have an answer for that in the next couple hours. So lvmpd.com will provide an answer to that probably before we have another press conference. But we are working diligently to get individuals who left personal property at the scene back to them as soon as possible. I anticipate it will not take place at the Route 91 location, but I do not want to give you furtherance of clarification at this point. So you will be provided that. The other issue is donations. As you can imagine, in any critical incident, the outpouring of support from private citizens, corporations, and everybody else associated with concern for the victims is overwhelming. And we appreciate that. But it comes a point where we can't manage it. Now, the Red Cross is unable to manage it. We are unable to manage it at the substations. So if it's hard goods such as water or canned goods or stuff that will not become perishable, 3 Square and Catholic Charities is accepting those donations. So we're asking you to provide that information to your listening public and to accept donations at that point. So the areas of, let me give you the addresses for those. So Catholic Charities is obviously at 1501 Las Vegas Boulevard North, and 3 Square is located at 4190 North Pecos Road. At this point, I will acquiesce to Commissioner Sisolak, and he will give you an update on the donation phase of this as far as victim satisfaction, and then I will return and we will conduct a Q&A associated with the investigation.
Commissioner. Thank you, Sheriff, and we appreciate you all being here today to give you a bit of an update on where we stand. The fund that the Sheriff and I set up yesterday has now surpassed 53,000 individual donations. It's in excess of $3.7 million as we speak. I want to bring especially, we need a lot more resources. We're going to need a lot more money. We've got individuals that are going to need future surgeries and help and so forth moving forward. I want to acknowledge a few special individuals not included in that total of $3.7 million. Last night, a private citizen called both the Sheriff and I and contributed $500,000 to the fund. That is not included in that total. This morning, Wayne and Kathleen Newton called me and they have donated $100,000. That is not included in that total. For those who want to contribute and don't want to do it on GoFundMe, you can make a check to Las Vegas Victims Fund and mail it either to the county office, to my office, or to the sheriff's office. But I just got off the phone with Jim Murrin from MGM International, and the sheriff and I both spoke to Jim, and obviously they have stepped up in an enormous manner with this community and everything that they continue to do. And on behalf of MGM and their over 50,000 employees, they have contributed $3 million to this fund. So we appreciate everyone's support, the donations from $5 to now $3 million. And there's a lot of need, and we are going to do everything we possibly can to raise money for each of these individuals. So we appreciate you continuing to encourage folks, your viewers and readers, to support the campaign. It's Las Vegas Victims, either on GoFundMe, or you can make a check to Las Vegas Victims Fund. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Sheriff. We're working through the idea of possible distribution. It comes with, we've already got some inquiries. I think it's going to be a few days before we can coordinate how we're going to distribute money. Right now, we're not looking at the minor property losses that some people have called on regarding, you know, backpacks and shoes and phones. We're looking at more major expenses as it relates to, you know, surgeries, medical expenses, funeral expenses, transportation, so forth. But we should have more details with you. We're working through the county office and the sheriff's office to develop something in the immediate future in terms of where people can go, who they can call to start distributing the money that the people are the most desperate. So thank you all very much.
Okay, just a quick synopsis or current status of the investigation. I won't reiterate what we discussed yesterday in previous press conferences, but we have completed the investigation at the Reno property, and I'm sure the question will be presented of what was recovered there. So it was numerous electronic items, additionally 5 handguns and 2 shotguns, and a plethora of ammunition. So we have served search warrants at 3 separate locations. That would be the room at the Mandalay Bay, the Mesquite location, and the Reno location. Additionally, we served a search warrant on the suspect's vehicle located at the Mandalay Bay. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
Can you be specific about the modifications to the weapons that make them automatic? There are different versions of what that can be. What were we talking about here?
The question was, what are the modifications associated with the weaponry? ATF is participating in that evaluation. I can't give you an answer on whether any of them are automatic or not, but we are aware of a device called a bump stop, and that enables an individual to speed up the discharge of ammunition. I don't want to give you any more details than that, but in partner with the FBI, the ATF, They're sending those weapons back east to the FBI crime lab for further evaluation.
Sheriff, you found that there.
Yes. Yes.
Sheriff, has the girlfriend,
Yes, sir.
Mary Lou Danley, has she given authorities information about his motive, about his movements? And if so, can you tell us what that information is?
No, we don't have that information yet, but I will assure you that the investigation with her is ongoing, and we anticipate some information here from her shortly.
Sheriff, can you circle back around to the number
Yes,
of...
Hi, we have some information in regards to $100,000 wired to the Philippines. Do you know anything about that?
No, ma'am, I do not. Now, here you go. So let me back up a little bit. There's a lot of information I do know, okay? But it's an ongoing investigation, and when I say I do not know, I may know. But as you can imagine, in a criminal investigation, we want to ensure the continued safety of our community and that all those questions are answered. And I assure you, this investigation is not ended with the demise of Mr. Paddock.
Sheriff, can I ask you a question here? Could you give us an update, if there is an update, on the victims and the injuries? And also, is there anything new? The key question we've all been wondering about, are you making any progress, whether you're able to give us specifics or not, are you making any progress on determining a motive?
No, I'll answer your last question first, no. We are making progress, but I don't have complete answers yet. So I anticipate a substantial amount of information to come in the next 48 hours. Hold on, let me finish the rest of it. As far as the injuries, you know, it goes across the board. The coroner commented on that yesterday. We have trampled injuries. We have people trying to escape injuries of their own device. We have gunshot wounds. So if you're looking at total type of injuries associated with all their injuries and the people that died, it goes across the board. I can't give you a percentage associated with gunshot versus other types of injuries.
Are the numbers, though, the general numbers, 59, 525, have those changed or are they the same way?
We believe the injury number has decreased slightly. And when I say slightly, maybe 20, because we had a double count error occurring at one of the hospitals.
And the death?
But we're looking close and still in close proximity of the number I provided you.
Can you tell us her whereabouts and if you've spoken to her directly already?
I can't tell you her current whereabouts right now. All I know is the Philippines, and we are in conversation.
Is she a suspect?
Currently, she's a person of interest.
Sheriff.
Who's the
The girlfriend.
She's a person of interest?
Yes.
Sheriff.
Yes. The Daily Mail has released photos that shows the hotel room after the SWAT team entered, and it shows guns and ammunitions inside. Many outlets are re-disseminating. Can you verify the legitimacy of these photos, and should any other outlets disseminate them?
I can't verify whether they're legitimate or not. What I can tell you is I'm very troubled by it. We have an internal investigation occurring as we speak on how those photographs were obtained by the public.
Sheriff, can you talk then to what was found inside that hotel room that the gunman used? Specifically, CBS News is reporting that there was a camera inside that room. Was the gunman recording? Was the gunman transmitting that video anywhere else?
I'm not aware of any transmission, but there was cameras. There was cameras located outside of the room and inside of the room, along with the firearms.
And he had set up how many cameras?
I don't know what the specific.
For what purpose do you think?
Well, I anticipate he was looking for anybody coming to take him into custody.
So essentially, you have a recording of him carrying out this carnage?
No, that's not essentially what I'm saying. That is being evaluated. The FBI took all digital and electronic evidence into custody, and we are evaluating.
Thank
you. Sheriff, if you would, follow-up question on, do we know if this man was targeting this particular event, or did he have in mind perhaps another music event that was going to be coming up in the Las Vegas area as a possible target? Have you developed any evidence of that?
No, we haven't developed that yet.
So there was
I
a
will
report
provide you that information at a later date.
To follow on that, there's a report that he may have intended to target the Life is Beautiful concert with Lord
We're unable
Chance
to
the
confirm
Rapper
that.
the week before.
were unable to confirm.
Sheriff, I have a question about the 72 minutes that transpired. We're just trying to get clarity as to, why did it take 17 minutes for the SWAT and PD to go into the shooter's hotel room? From when the shots were reported to the time when they entered the hotel room at the Mandalay Bay. Can you give us a little more specifics about how it went down?
What's the clarity
Some specifics as to how it went down, what time the shots rang out, what time you guys got the call, and what time
we received a call at 10:08 p.m. The best of our estimates and video review continue to fire at a progressive successive rate for approximately 9 minutes. As you can see by any video you see in a public space, it was hard to determine where they were coming from. Once it was evaluated, it was coming from the Mandalay Bay. As you can imagine how hard it would be to pinpoint the room from the outside. Officers subsequently teamed up, and moved over to the Mandalay Bay in order to locate and engage. But that was in conjunction with the Mandalay Bay security. Now, this is an opportunity for me to tell you something. The Mandalay Bay security was fantastic. I don't want anybody assuming that they are unsafe by, staying at one of our hotels. We would not have engaged this individual in the time lapse that we did without their assistance. We received information via their dispatch center and or their operations center, their call center, from individuals staying within the Mandalay Bay that helped us locate where this individual was sequestered.
Sheriff,
finish your question. All right, and so subsequently that takes time. As you can imagine, moving from the location of the event, deciding whether you're going to help victims evacuate or you're going to decide whether you're going to take charge and put an element together and go engage this individual. So we have a lot of bifurcation of responsibilities associated, especially in a dynamic event. I want to say kudos to those officers that got together and said, this is what we trained for. Active shooter, we're putting an element together. Let's go engage this individual and locate them. Okay? And that's what we did. And when the security officer was engaged by the suspect, we backed off for immediate apprehension, and SWAT team formed and made entry.
What time was the security officer engaged by the
I don't have that time for you.
Sheriff, how concerned are you about your officers facing weapons like these?
Absolutely concerned. The world has changed, and who would have ever imagined this situation? I couldn't imagine it, and for this individual to take it upon himself to create this chaos and harm is unspeakable. And we have to try to spitball or what if these situations at all points when we train, and ensure that we have proper response, and I think we did a fantastic job.
So, Sheriff, Mandalay Bay Security identified the room before SWAT arrived?
No. Well, yeah, before SWAT arrived, but not before my officers arrived. They were married or hand-to-hand with my officers when we made entry over to the hotel. And it was a matter, if you recall yesterday, I said between floor 29 and 32. And during that process of evaluating the floors, we received additional information where he was located, and they immediately responded.
Sheriff, what time did SWAT breach his suite?
I don't have that number for you.
And
Sheriff,
did he continue to shoot from 10:08 until the SWAT team came in, or why did he stop shooting? Do you understand that?
That's for us to evaluate in the investigation.
And can you tell us where the bodies were found? Were they scattered throughout the venue, or were they in one particular area?
No, they were throughout the venue. They even had some victims met their demise outside of the venue. And then we had individuals who had been shot, and they continued to run away, and then they passed away several blocks from the venue.
Sheriff,
we also had very heroic acts of people attending the event. We have numerous videos depicting people attending, normal citizens providing medical aid and providing transportation for victims to get to the hospital.
Sheriff?
Yes, sir.
Going back to the point of what my colleague said on the cameras that were set up in the room, it sounds, at least I'm sorry if I'm interpreting this wrongly, it sounds like he has set those cameras up to give himself warning of the approach of police officers. And in your mind, if that indeed was the case, and I know you don't want to get into the mind of a madman as you put it, but how would you judge this man's preparation and determination to do this based on those factors?
I don't even need that bit of information to make a judgment. This individual was premeditated, obviously premeditated. The fact that he had the type of weaponry and amount of weaponry in that room, it was pre-planned extensively, and I'm pretty sure he evaluated everything that he did in his actions, which is troublesome. I was hoping, you know, I pray that in these situations that a citizen, because we can't be at all places at all times, that a citizen sees something, says something, and we act on that. Quite often what we experience in our line of work, a citizen thinks it's trivial, and they say, no, I don't want to bother the police. We ask you to bother the police, because those individuals, especially housekeeping type individuals, or any cab drivers, anybody in the public space that can assist us, we ask them.
Do you believe his girlfriend had any knowledge that he planned?
Okay, let me ask.
Did police or security guards fire any shots anytime during the encounter?
While he was discharging his weapons?
Yes.
We are not aware of that. No security guard or police other than the encounter at the room.
And can you expand on what went right? I know you practice for scenarios like this, maybe not exactly this scenario. Can you expand on what went right with first responders?
You know what, I'm glad you asked that, Ricardo, because obviously people have the assumption things went wrong in this type of carnage. But what went right is we saved hundreds of lives. In an event, and this guy had an ability with those weaponry, the carnage that could occur outside of what did occur, a lot more was prevented because of our police action in short time and private security action in short time to save some lives.
Sure. Could I ask you, with all of this in the room, the cameras now, the guns, everything else, yesterday you had said that there had been hotel staff inside that room during his stay. Is that still believed? Did he turn away housekeeping? Did housekeeping go in there during this time?
The only thing I know at this point is room service was provided.
Sheriff, could I ask you on the motive, and I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify, do you believe you are going to find the motive for this crime?
I absolutely believe that.
Sheriff, back on the girlfriend, do you know where she is, or is it not?
Yes, I do.
And why is FBI not trying to bring her back immediately?
How do you know that's not occurring?
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking. Is that what's happening?
That is occurring.
Sheriff, are you able to, you all have been investigating this nonstop for the last several days. How are you and your investigators doing?
I'm so glad you asked that. No, I am. I'm not being sarcastic. We're doing good. I'm actually very proud of our people. I mean, this guy here is the local SAC, Aaron Rouse, in charge of the FBI. You know, it's important. Greg Castle talked about this yesterday, the chief of the Clark County Fire Department. I'm telling you right now, this jurisdiction has the best partnerships, I believe, in the United States as far as public safety. We would not be able to accomplish what we did, as you described, in the last 48 hours without that partnership. The FBI stepped into the plate to help us with evidence, documentation, and prosecution. The fire department, he didn't do a good job describing it yesterday, Greg. The fire department in our jurisdiction marries with a police officer during a critical incident. I beg you to find such a robust type operation in the rest of the United States. Quite often what you observe in the public space is the fire department will wait until it's secured by public safety before aid is rendered. Our primary mission is aid and the safety of the public. They took it upon themselves to train with us, to marry with us, and to go into the fray to assist the victims. If you look at the video, you quite often see individuals with helmets on and vests on, firefighters, standing next to us. So I think it's very important for you to ask that question. It's very important for me to convey the answer. But the next 48 hours, we'll be able to tell. We've gone into incident management mode. So in other words, people have to get sleep and nourished, and because we don't want to make any mistakes in the investigation.
Sheriff, right here. Do you have any indication whether what the suspect was doing in the days leading up? Was he in the casino gambling, eating, or just...
We do have some information. I'm not at liberty to say at this point. There's the guy I was just talking about. Make sure you get him on camera.
Sheriff,
Yes, ma'am.
have you been in communication with the Philippine government? If yes, have they been cooperative with the whereabouts of Ms. Ganglin?
Yes, we have.
Sheriff, a couple of questions. One is to...
Okay, before we get too long and too contracted in this press interview, I'll answer your questions, Ken. I'll ask a couple additional more, and then I want acknowledgement of the people standing behind me. As you can see, it's a congressional delegation and our other public safety officials, and it's very hard for them to conduct federal government and local government while they're standing behind me. But I think it's important for you to realize their community support, and they want to be there amongst everything else they do to ensure that people understand we're bringing all resources associated with this to bear in order for immediate success. Go ahead, Ken.
The first one is to button up the camera's question. There's a report that that he had a camera on a service cart in the hallway, and that the security guard was shot.
I'll tell you what, I wish I had some of you on my investigative team. It's amazing some of the information you come up with, but I'll confirm it, yes, one of them was on a service cart.
Now, the other question is the one that I wanted to get to. You talked about motive, you talked about premeditation. You want to learn why he did what he did. Videos, can you tell us the number of interviews you're going to have to do that? You talked about you reviewing cameras, videos, computers. Who did he last talk to?
I'll give you a global answer on that. Yes to everything you said. Yes, we are evaluating all that. I can't give you, because the number's changing, it's fluid, Ken, on the number of videos we're evaluating. Just on body camera videos, we had over 67 videos we were evaluating. Okay? So you would say, well, you had a lot more officers at the event than that, Sheriff. You only had 67? No, not all officers are assigned cameras because they work in investigative function or plain clothes. But when they take on the role of special events over time, we don't require them to wear body cameras. So we are evaluating those cameras as we speak. We have 90% of that done. But then we have all the common public space cameras that we're evaluating. And I can't remember the rest of your question.
Well, we're also talking about the computers and his cameras.
So a lot of this, you're probably saying, well, Jesus, Sheriff, it's 2017. How come it's taking so long for you to evaluate that? Because it's evidentiary. There's chain of custody issues associated with that. We have to ensure we're dotting the I's and crossing the T, because you know there's criminal defense attorneys out there, right? And there's this thing called the Constitution. We have to ensure that we're abiding by that, and we ensure that, I don't know if we have possible future prosecution. You've heard me say that we're comfortable that we have the suspect in custody, but something more may come of that investigation. And I want to understand the motivation that you described, okay, to prevent any future incidents. And, did this person get radicalized unbeknownst to us? And we want to identify that source.
And who did Mr. Paddock last speak?
Hold on a second.
That was
and
the
then I'll
question.
answer the president
Thank
question.
you. Does the congressional support include gun control?
That's not for this forum. That's a long, protracted discussion. That's not for this forum.
Still part of it.
Sheriff, in regards to the president's visits, the president will visit tomorrow. Any security measurement the city has taken, and if you can, tell us what the president's plan while he visits Las Vegas, how long he will be here for. I also know that it's been reported that he will meet with the local sheriff. I'm assuming that will be yourself.
I'm the only one.
And the mayor and the governor. So could you please give us
You're correct in who he's visiting, and it is a matter of secrecy and OPSEC, operational security, that I can't give you his travel plans. And that will be obviously provided in close proximity with his arrival.
Any information on if he will visit the hospital, he will visit the victims?
Ma'am, I can't answer that question because of operational security, but as you very well know, you have the resources to determine that upon his arrival. And I can't speak to what his agenda is. What I can tell you on part of your question was what is normal protocol when the president or the vice president of or anybody of dignitary space of that equality, we ensure their safety by the joining forces, basically. It takes a great deal of resources to ensure the safety of the president, and we will provide that because of our public cooperation through NHP, North Las Vegas, Henderson, Boulder City. As you can imagine, all the people will come to bear. Now, an important piece on that is the president's visiting. Route 91 investigation, and if you recall, I'm a police department, so we have over 3.3 million calls a year that we deal with. So we have to continue with our investigations, our response, and normal police business in order to be successful. So I ask your cooperation, and don't get frustrated if I don't have a press conference every 5 minutes, because I have a job to do and my folks have a job to do. So I want to thank everybody for attending today, and hopefully, as a result of your attendance and your broadcast, this investigation will be not as long as I want it to be.
Sheriff, you've been very transparent as far as Metro's de-escalation.
Can you say that again?
Tactics.
Can you say it again, please? Say
Well,
it again,
you have,
Rachel.
as a local reporter, you have been very transparent in the past about Metro's de-escalation tactics. In Pulse, which was a mass shooting, there was talk at the time of a very delayed police response trying to decide when to make entry. Can you talk about the decision to make entry into Paddock's hotel room?
Well, I will not disparage another police department's response, but I will tell you we quite often learn from what other people do. And everything we do on a critical incident is based on a self-evaluation. And as a result of what occurred in Columbine, what occurred in Sacramento, what occurred in Boston, what occurred at the Pulse nightclub, police response has changed. By the fact that the fire department is standing with us is monumental, okay? So we have found it's better, instead of securing a perimeter and hoping the person doesn't continue to do acts of carnage associated with their actions, that even a small police response will stop the suspect's actions. And so to answer your question in reference to Mandalay Bay, that training, we were listening and we were paying attention. Officers on their own, without direction of a supervisor, knew what they had to do. They came together, formed a team, made a response, and they didn't wait on SWAT, okay? They said we have to stop. It's easy to say, well, we're waiting on SWAT, they're the experts in tactical intrusion, but our officers took it upon themselves to act.
So to clarify, patrol officers made entry to the room?
No. Patrol officers evaluated floor by floor of the space between 29 and 32 where the suspect was. They formed a security. They evacuated rooms, and they formed a perimeter at the suspect's location. By unfortunate acts of the suspect, the security guard was engaged during that process.
Quick yes, no. Was the security guard in accompaniment with officers, or was the security guard alone when
he was acting independently? He got separated from our team.
Good evening. I'm Kevin McMahill. I'm the Undersheriff of Clark County in the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I'm going to provide you the final briefing for today. And as promised in our last briefing, we now have the lvmpd.com site up and running. It's a page listing resources available to our victims or family representatives of victims involved in the Route 91 Harvest Festival shooting. Information on the site includes instructions on how to report information if you were a witness, important phone numbers on how to provide photo and video evidence as soon as we have information on how to retrieve lost property. As the sheriff told you previously, we'll post that on the page as well. After this incident, one of the most striking visuals, in addition to the absolute carnage, was the sheer amount of personal items left behind as people fled from the terror. One of the biggest items left were vehicles of the concert goers. So for those people that are waiting to get that property returned to them, I have an update. There's a dirt lot on the corner of Giles Street, Giles, between Alibaba and Mandalay Road. There's approximately 150 vehicles over there that citizens have not yet been able to recover. Those cars can now be picked up by the registered owner by meeting officers at the corner of Reno and Koval. We'll have officers permanently assigned there, posted at the corner, to escort you to your vehicle. So again, we ask the owners of those vehicles that have patiently waited to get them back to meet our officers at the corner of Reno and Koval. Bring your identification so we can match you back to your vehicle. The sheriff in the previous press conference was asked a number of questions by you, and I understand in the insatiable appetite of the media that you want some answers. I'm going to try to answer a couple of those questions that you asked, but I'm also going to just make it very clear to you that I need some patience from you. This investigation is a long time from being concluded. We recently went down to Mandalay Bay. I can tell you that we're days away from completion of the processing of that room. We're getting very close to the completion of the processing of the site. We have a significant amount of time left there as well. However, the southbound portion of Las Vegas Boulevard is now completely open. We are also working diligently as we speak. I believe we just opened up 2 of the northbound lanes. And the completion of the northbound lanes should occur sometime this evening. So bearing in mind that the investigation is dynamic, ongoing, continuing, and I don't have a lot of answers for you yet, and clearly understanding that nobody wants answers to why more than the police and the victims' families. But we have a responsibility to get it right, and so that's why it's going to take time, and that's why we're going to take that time. However, there's some, I guess, at best, interesting reporting about how long the shooting lasted and how long it took us to get into the room. First question is, how long did the actual shooting last? I'm prepared to give you some information on that. And the first call came into our dispatch center at 10:08 p.m. about shots being fired. The suspect, I can tell you that we know now that he fired off and on for somewhere between 9 and 11 minutes. We know that the suspect fired over a dozen or so volleys, and we know that the firing by the suspect ceased at 10:19. So I want you to think about that. The first minute the police are aware of shots being fired at 10:08, and it stops at 10:19. That's a remarkable response by this police department. Also, another question that came up, how long was it before our SWAT team entered the suspect's room? Somebody said you heard that it was 72 minutes, and if why so long? As I just mentioned to you, and as the sheriff mentioned previously in the briefing, we had patrol officers actually working another event at the Mandalay Bay who heard the shooting, and they took it upon themselves to form up into a team, enter the stairwell, begin ascending the floors, and also evacuating hotel guests. The SWAT team had to arrive first at the Mandalay Bay before they could take any action. As I mentioned earlier, there was a very heroic security guard who was shot during the search for that suspect. That security guard went up to the room. He was advancing towards the room when the suspect fired through the door at the security guard and struck him. He was able to provide additional information to the police on exactly which room that we were looking at. However, at that time, it's important to note that the shooting had stopped. We're considering it a barricade at that point because it's no longer an active shooter. We're not hearing any further shots. The floors had already been evacuated of the guests. The suspect was now isolated and contained within a room. At the point that the SWAT team made their decision based on when it was appropriate to enter, I want to make it clear again to you that while there was that slight delay, the suspect was no longer firing into the crowd. There was a question about the validity of the crime scene photos that somebody had leaked. I can confirm those are, in fact, photos from inside of the room. They're, in fact, photos of our suspect. And as the sheriff mentioned previously, we have all opened up an internal investigation to determine the source of the leaks of those photos to the public. You asked what we found in the suspect's room, and the sheriff spoke a little bit about cameras being located. To clarify, there were 2 cameras located in the hallway so that the suspect could watch as law enforcement or security approached his room. And there was another camera placed inside the hotel room door peephole so that he could see down the hallway. As this investigation continues on, we continue to hear stories of heroics by police officers, first responders, and average citizens alike. I commend all of their actions as they showed immense courage in the face of extreme danger. I want to mention that one of those brave people was the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Officer Charleston Hartfield. Officer Hartfield was at the Route 91 concert that night along with his wife when shots rang out. Even though Officer Hartfield was at the concert as a civilian, he immediately took action to save lives. In that moment, he was acting as a police officer. He ultimately gave his life protecting others. Officer Hartfield was an 11-year member of the LVMPD and leaves behind a wife and 2 children. We're very grateful for his sacrifice. There'll be a vigil to remember Officer Hartfield this Thursday, October 5th at the Police Memorial Park at 6 p.m. As you all know, that park is located at 3250 Metro Academy Way, and it's being hosted by our Police Protective Association. As this community has become accustomed when we do provide information in regards to our critical incidents, we release body-worn camera footage to you. There's a significant amount of body-worn camera footage that we're going through. However, I'm going to play a clip on our new very large monitor for you of a compilation of a number of those body-worn cameras. You'll see that the officers were dealing with some uncooperative citizens at times, but at all times they were trying to locate the source of the gunfire as well as evacuate those citizens that were in the line of fire. I think the video will speak for itself, so if you'd like to, I'll try to narrate just a little bit for you as we go through. That wall faces Mandalay Bay, and they're hunkered down behind that wall after an initial volley of shots.
Hey, you guys, get down! Go that way! Get out of here! There's gunshots coming from over there! Go that way! Go that way!
At this point, they're still trying to figure out where the rounds are coming from.
Hit my head. Hey, go that way, go that way, go that way. Hey, they're shooting right at us, guys. Everybody stay down. Stay down. Where's it at?
North of the Mandalay Bay. It's coming out of a window.
Hey, get behind cover.
A couple of officers hunkered down next to a patrol vehicle on Las Vegas Boulevard when one of our officers gets shot.
Hey, go back! Go back! Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back! Hey, I know you are. There's multiple people shot up there. I know. Get in there. Get in there.
We see muzzle flash from the Mandalay Bay.
This video is obscured. You notice the officers are wearing those yellow reflective vests. That's what you're actually seeing.
Everybody get down, get down, get down, get down.
Very difficult to tell from that video, but the officer's actually standing over another woman.
I got firecrackers. Let's get down, get down, get down! I got a vest on. Benny! Stay as close as possible.
Where are you? Go. Go. This way. Go. That way.
Obviously, I'm Sheriff Joe Lombardo with Clark County. This will be one of many press conferences we have provided in order to provide the public information that is occurring. And then, so the sequence of these events tonight, I will provide you some, can we get some help back there? I will provide you a sequence of some updates of the investigation as we have moved forward since the last time we spoke to you. Any specifics or continuance of any global investigative leads that you need to be aware of. Special Agent Aaron Rouse will provide those that information associated with that. Okay, and then subsequently I will return to the podium, assist with some Q&A, and then Commissioner Sislak is available if you have any questions of the Commissioner. And then obviously we have Senator Dean Heller who wish to address the audience also. So, President Trump. I think he was in town today. Yes, he was in town. And the reason why I bring up President Trump is nothing to do, in fact, with President Trump, but to do with the police department. There was some concern because of his visit that investigations associated with this case would be delayed or hindered. And I'm here to assure you none of that occurred. There was a separation of personnel associated with first responders of the Harvest Festival event that took the opportunity to meet with Mr. Trump, and he had the opportunity to congratulate them for their heroic acts. Investigators are directly related to this investigation, both on my department and the FBI, were not part of that. So I want everybody assured there was no hindrance in continuance of the investigation. Return of property. There's a lot of questions going on with that, and I wish I could provide you answers with that. We will try to post on lbmpd.com as soon as we can advise victims when they can receive their personal property. We are still evaluating the crime scene. Until that completes, the property phase will not occur. So the best of my understanding of where we're at, we're looking at 4 to 5 days. So I know that sounds troublesome, but it's important that we dot the I's and cross the T's as far as the evidentiary and possible prosecution in the future. Injuries. Injury number that we are using today, 489. Of that 489, 317 have been discharged from the hospital. So the question is, Sheriff, you provided several different numbers associated with that, all the way up to 527. Now you got to imagine we're dispersed across several hospitals. We're relying on internal communication of the hospitals to provide us accurate numbers. So that's ever changing. And additionally, hospitals receive patients outside of this event. So quite often, or hopefully not quite often, but often, some of those patients were double counted or they were misconstrued as event injuries versus other injuries such as car accidents. So today I'm comfortable in saying the injured number is 489. Deaths still remain at 59. I had told you 59 before, plus 1 being the suspect. That changed. Today it's 58, plus 1, the suspect, 59. And it was the same reason that occurred before, as I explained. So hope you understand that. Nobody wants that number to go up, and by the grace of God, it went down. So that's a good thing. So today I'll provide you some updates on our investigation of the mass shooting Sunday night at Route 91. More than 100 investigators have spent the last 72 hours combing through the life of 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. to produce a profile of someone I will call disturbed and dangerous. What we know is Stephen Paddock is a man who spent decades acquiring weapons and ammo and living a secret life, much of which will never be fully understood. He meticulously planned on the worst domestic attack in United States history. As many of you already reported, Paddock rented a room at the Ogden Hotel in downtown Las Vegas. This has been confirmed. Okay? Reasons that ran through Paddock's mind is unknown, but it was directly during the same time as Life is Beautiful. We have recovered evidence from that location. We don't know if it is evidence, but we have recovered items in video evidence. And I don't want to, you know what, I'm using the wrong term. Evidence is not the term. We have recovered video from there to review Mr. Paddock's actions while he was there. Now it's important for you to understand, this was not, the rooms were not rented by the Ogden. It was done through Airbnb by a private owner unknown to the Ogden. So we have very great cooperation from the owners of Life is Beautiful and the Ogden, and they are in full cooperation. Okay, while we have already spoken to many people who have contacted with Stephen Paddock at hotels and places he frequented, we still have more interviews to conduct. Since Monday, there have been many questions for us to release a timeline, and today we have one. I want to point out the information previously reported on the time of the first shot was based on a CAD report. That's our computer-aided dispatch. That's what we do for calls for service. So that report is dependent on who a particular person calling in and that timestamp. But what we have done through the review of body-worn cameras, we are able to pull it back to previously from 10:08 to 10:05. So Carlos. So I'm going to give you a chance to review that, take photographs of it, and I'll walk you through each timeline. So at 10:05, the first shots fired by the suspect. This was seen on closed-circuit television from the concert venue. 10:12, first two officers arrived on the 31st floor and announced that gunfire is coming from directly above them. 10:15, the last shots were fired from the suspect per body-worn camera. So if you're looking at the math, 10 minutes. 10:17, the first two officers arrive on the 32nd floor. 10:18, security officer tells the LVMPD officers he was shot and gives the exact location of the suspect's room. Now you notice a minute delta there. Before they broadcasted it, obviously they were in a conversation with the security guard immediately upon them exiting the elevators. Between 10:26 and 10:30, 8 additional officers arrived on the 32nd floor and began to move systematically down the hallway, clearing each room and looking for any injured people. They moved this way because no longer hear the gunfire of the active shooter situation. 10:55, 8 officers arrived in the stairwell at the opposite end of the hallway nearest the suspect's room. So when I say nearest the suspect's room, you can imagine the doorway of the hotel room. This stairwell and this door access is approximately 2 to 3 feet away. 11:20, the first breach was set off and officers entered the suspect's room. They observed the suspect down on the ground and also saw a second door that could not be accessed from their position. So it's a suite, and you have a main area of the suite, which is a living room, kitchen, dinette area, and then on opposite ends of that is 2 bedrooms. Okay, so if you do the math on that, all the way up to 11:20 from 10:05, we're looking at 75 minutes. So the young lady here in the front with the red phone, you had mentioned 72 minutes, so now you see where those minutes came from. Okay? At 11:27, the second breach was set off, allowing officers to access the second room, and no one else was located within the hotel room. Okay, these are following extenuating circumstances as to why it may appeared that there was some delay or undue delay in reaching the suspects. Okay, the officers in the first strike team reached this 32nd floor within 12 minutes, which is phenomenal, of the first shot being fired. When the officers arrived and confirmed the location of the suspect's room, the gunfire had stopped. In accordance with their training, the officers retrieved a master key card from the injured security guard and began to systematically clear each hotel room. So imagine the elevator bank in the center, 150 feet down on a triplex hotel was the suspect's room. So there's several rooms along the way. Because of no firing was occurring, they could not hear additional firing. They believed it was important to evacuate in case the suspect was barricaded. While the first strike team did this, the second team, made up of 2 K-9 personnel, a SWAT officer, and patrol officers, navigated the numerous stairs wearing heavy tactical gear, carrying a large bag with tactical equipment, and holding rifles in order to have a closer position to the suspect's room. And that is within that stairwell and that doorway adjacent to the room I described previously. They attempted to secure the front doorway of the suspect's room, but as they entered into the hallway, they could see the room service card, and readily apparent on the room service card were cameras. So they pulled back and they waited for the approach of a full SWAT team. Keep in mind, this delay was not undue, it was purposeful, and no shots were being heard by the suspect at this point. Eventually a plan was formulated, entry was made, suspect was seen laying on the ground. They encountered a closed bedroom door which was locked, and they breached that door additionally and found no other suspect. Another investigative issue was cameras. Questions was presented about cameras and whether they were recording. We determined none of the cameras were recording. There was 2 cameras on the room service cart out in the hallway. There was one on the peephole of the front door, and additionally there was a baby monitor camera placed in the general family area of the hotel room. None of them were being recorded. One thing I left out was the initial approach, and they looked out in the hallway. When they observed the cameras on the room service cart, it was obviously there was several rounds discharged through the door, and through the blast of the bullets through the door, you could actually see a weapon through those openings in the door, but no suspect was seen. Now, those rounds were the strafing rounds that he put through the door in order to shoot at the security guard. Okay, the other thing I wanted to update you on is the search warrant of the suspect's vehicle located at the Mandalay Bay. I had presented that there was ammonium nitrate recovered, but there were several cases within the car that had not been searched yet at the last briefing I provided with you. So within those cases, there was 10 1-pound containers of tannerite, 2 20-pound containers of tannerite, and approximately 1,600 rounds of ammunition. So tip line, this is an ongoing investigation. We can never not have enough information because we are continuing to run down leads, and it's important for us to get all the information we can on Mr. Paddock, because right now we're trying to prove his intent or understand his intent and the history associated with this, and whether or not he has any accomplices. So we ask people to still call in to 311. If you're out of state, 702-828-311, and then the FBI 1-800 FBI, and that is investigative and also for electronic media. If you're able to call them, they will provide you the ability to download that online into their system.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kevin McMahill. I'm the Undersheriff for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, and I am going to be providing you an update this afternoon on the Route 91 Music Festival mass murder. To date, we have run down well more than 1,000 leads in this investigation. While some of it has helped create a better profile into the madness of this suspect, we do not still have a clear motive or reason why. I can assure you that we are aware of all aspects of this case, to include the rumor, innuendo, and supposition by many in the public. And I get it. We all want answers. We have looked at everything, literally, to include the suspect's personal life, any political affiliation, his social behaviors, economic situation, and any particular or potential radicalization that so many have claimed. We're also aware, of course, that ISIS has repeatedly claimed responsibility, which today I can tell you that we have no known nexus to. We have been down each and every single one of these paths trying to determine why, to determine who else may have known of these plans. We will continue to investigate each and every one of these areas, as well as all the tips and leads that continue to come in. We must remain focused solely on truth and fact. It's very easy to assume. We're collectively working with the FBI and many other partners to try to get there. At this time, I'll tell you again that we have no credible information to report to you as to motivation. We will not stop, and we'll keep you up to date as anything develops on that. I will tell you, though, that all of the rumor and speculation has not been helpful to our investigation. In the past, terror attacks or mass murder incidents, motive was made very clear in most of those cases, by a note that was left, by a social media post, by a telephone call that was made, by investigators mining computer data. Today, in our investigation, we don't have any of that uncovered. I wish we did. We will and are continuing to investigate with great tenacity and hope to arrive at an answer. We reported in the media yesterday that we found the missing Hyundai Tucson with Nevada plate 114 Baker 40. It was in the Reno residence that we did a search warrant on. Just a communication issue that we didn't know about it when we reported it to you. Most of you also now know the name of the Mandalay Bay security guard who you've all named in the media, and I'll just reaffirm to you that Jesus Campos is a true hero. I can tell you now just a little bit more that I know about what he did that particular day. We now know that he was dispatched to what they call a door alarm on the 32nd floor. He went up there to investigate the open door, and as he was doing his job diligently, he came under fire by our suspect. As you know, he was struck in the leg. He turned around and retreated. He notified his dispatch, which was absolutely critical to us knowing the location, as well as advising the responding officers as they arrived on that 32nd floor. I can tell you that this was a remarkable effort by a brave and remarkable man. I want to say today that I don't think we've done a good enough job recognizing him and his actions, and for that I apologize. I just want to take the moment and clear the record that he's an absolute hero. There's also a couple of questions that have continued to come in regards to this tannerite and what materials that we had. You all know we've given you this information about where we found the tannerite in the vehicle. Tannerite is a binary explosive, meaning that it's composed of two substances. We also had a significant amount of that tannerite as a finished product, and we had two chemicals of ammonium nitrate and aluminum powder that when combined make the finished product of tannerite. Sorry to tell you, I don't know what he was going to do with all of that tannerite. I wish I did, and we continue to try to find that information out. There's a couple of things before I take any questions from you, however. First and foremost is that our partner, Special Agent in Charge, Aaron Rouse, has some information about a new media plan that the FBI has launched, and I would like him to explain exactly what that is. Mr. Rouse?
Thank you, Undersheriff. I'm very pleased to announce that Clear Channel Local here in Las Vegas has partnered with the Metropolitan Police and with the FBI to reach as many people as we possibly can. We're starting an information campaign seeking true knowledge as to what happened in the events leading up to and involving this incident. The billboards will be displayed throughout the Las Vegas area. They will have the badge of the Metropolitan Police and the seal of the FBI on it, along with the terms, if you know something, say something, along with a phone number, which we've agreed will be 1-800-CALL-FBI. This is critical for us. As the Undersheriff mentioned, we have not stopped, we will not stop until we have the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rouse. And next up, I would like to have the Chair of the Clark County Commission, Steve Sisolak, come up and provide you some additional information as well.
Thank you, Undersheriff, and I appreciate you all being here. And in the past 4 days, we've had numerous names assigned to this event, this tragedy. And for official purposes and in the future, after consultation with the coroner, our first report is coming out this afternoon. The official name that which this tragedy will be referred to will be the number 1 October. So the digit 1 October will be the official name listed on all reports and investigations moving forward on this incident. Thank you all very much.
With that, I'll take a couple of questions.
Is there any indication? Can you expand on the misinformation? There's a lot of rumors online, and how that may hinder the proper investigation.
Yeah, listen, I mean, we have a responsibility as law enforcement organizations to run down each and every lead, to debunk them, to determine whether there's any validity to those leads. And so, as I told you, we have a significant number of those. The investigative effort is massive. We continue to do it, but rumor and supposition doesn't help. And so those true tips and leads of things that people know are imperative to this investigation. But just because you think you know something doesn't necessarily mean that you do. If you have factual information that you can provide us in regards to this investigation, it would be helpful to us. Thank you.
I understand that motive is still unclear. However, can you confirm that investigators, while recovering these numerous electronic devices and cameras, they may have recovered a video in which the suspect may have alluded to his motive, or any type of video regarding the shooting?
I'm not aware that we've recovered any such video.
Have you been able to resolve the question of whether he had any help, or whether there was an accomplice, or can you eliminate the question of whether you are specifically trying to find somebody else?
Okay, the question is, can we confirm whether there's an accomplice or not? I can tell you this: we're very confident that there was not another shooter in that room. What I cannot confirm to you today, and what we continue to investigate, is whether anybody else may have known about this incident before he carried it out. You're going to have to speak up, I'm sorry.
Concerning the question of tannerite, what it's being used for, was there any indication that anything was found in his vehicles or his home, that there was a chance this guy was putting together IEDs with shrapnel, with containers, or anything else like this, or was this just a standardized package that's normally sold?
Right. The question is about the tannerite that we found and whether we believe he was trying to make it into an IED. I can tell you we found it in the condition that it was, and it did not resemble an IED.
I don't know if you guys talked about this or not, but in the video of the Mandalay Bay, have you reviewed all that to see if somebody else came with him, or all those days prior?
The question is, have we reviewed the video from the Mandalay Bay? I can tell you that there's voluminous amounts of video from many different locations. We have reviewed it, and we have not located any other person that we believe to be a suspect at this point.
Was there any indication that someone else used his card key to get into his room while he left the hotel?
The question is do we know that anybody else used a room key for the hotel room, and we do not believe that happened.
Do we know? Can you comment on whether the shooter had any mental health diagnoses, whether the reports he's taking Valium or another medication?
The question is about the medical status. That is another aspect of the investigation we're keenly interested in, and we continue to investigate that.
Are you looking at whether he was...
Go ahead, sir.
On the timeline, so the security officer tells you on the timeline that he was shot at 10:18. That's when he tells you he was shot. When was he shot?
I can give you the exact time off the timeline off camera. I don't remember. I don't have it in front of me as we sit here. I'll be clear about the timeline, right? What the sheriff and I have both explained to you at different times is information that we had initially, we went back and reconciled it with what was on the body-worn camera as well as what was in our computer-aided dispatch, the CAD data. And so all of that timeline that we represented to you is what we have to the best of our knowledge today. I'm sorry I cut you off, ma'am.
Okay, I was just wondering, are you looking into the question of whether he was kind of obsessed with the month of October since he bought the guns in October and his lawsuit was dismissed in October?
I can tell you that our investigation is focused, I'm sorry, the question is, are we looking specifically at the month of October? The answer to that is we are looking at every aspect from birth to death of this suspect in this case.
So just to go back to the security guard, are you able to tell us what time the alarm went off on the 32nd floor and why it was going off? And is there any, is it at all possible that the security guard was shot before Paddock was firing into the crowd?
So you have a two-part question, is what time did the suspect go up, or I'm sorry, the security officer arrive to check the door and why? The question, or the answer is that the door alarm went off, indicating that the door was ajar. So the officer was dispatched up to check that specific time. We have it. I don't know what it is. And I'm sorry, your second question?
Is it possible that he was shot before Paddock was even firing?
The question is, was the security officer shot before the suspect was shooting into the crowd? The answer to that is yes, we believe he was shot. That we believe that he was shooting into the crowd, and then the security officer was shot during that event. I'm taking two more. Go ahead.
The percentage of injuries, I know we had discussed this earlier. Do we know how many people were actually shot versus the trampling injuries or anything else?
That's a question that you're going to, question is how many people were shot versus other trampling injuries. As you well know, the number that we continue to look at both for dead and injured, and we still have obviously critically injured people in the hospitals. You notice I'm not giving you a number because that number continues to change every day. People are being discharged from the hospital, and I'll let the coroner answer those questions because he's best provided to give you the information in regards to whether somebody received a gunshot wound or another type of wound.
Just to clarify a report about a key being used, his room key being used when his car was out of the garage. Did that happen?
The question is, was his vehicle being used while his room key? Was his vehicle out of the garage while his room key was being used? I'm not aware of that information, sir, no. Last question.
I thought you might address this at the beginning, so do it at the end. Well, maybe 22,000 people have belongings there. When are they going to get it back? When are they going to, maybe the FBI and Metro can tell us?
Yeah, so we've answered that question a couple of times, Ken, but the question is, when are people going to be able to get their property back? As you can imagine, we have thousands of pieces of property that were left on the field that particular day. We are diligently working to find how it is that we can appropriately document the evidence where it lay and catalog it, collect it, and then find the mechanism to get that back to the people that actually own it. I believe we're still probably about 4 days away from allowing that to happen. And the final thing I'd just like to close out by saying to you that it's really imperative that the listening public have a very clear understanding that there are still a number of people out there that know that something looked out of place. Someone may have been acting suspiciously that night or in the years prior, the months prior. Somebody that may have seen something or knows something, much to like the FBI SAC mentioned. If you know something, you need to say something. Please provide that information to us at that 1-800-CALL-FBI, and we'll continue to update you as this investigation continues. Thank you very much.
You may not know, I'm Sheriff Lombardo of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Today I'm going to give you an update where we currently are with the investigation, and then I'll give you some insight to where we're going with the investigation, and then I'll be happy to answer a small number of questions. Okay, so in the days since our last briefing, investigators from the LVMPD, along with many agents from the FBI and ATF, have continued working around the clock on the 1 October shooting. Today I'll provide you with some information, but mostly I hope to clarify or provide more updated information on some of the details that have been reported in the media. A number of you have already reported that the brother of the suspect is in town, and yes, he is. We are in contact with him, along with other family members. I will not discuss what came out of those interviews, but every piece of information we get is one more piece of the puzzle in this case. Last week, we talked about the single person whose action helped pinpoint the location of the suspect, and that was the Mandalay Bay security guard Jesus Campos. As you might imagine, Mr. Campos was not only injured when he was fired upon, as he did his room check about the door alarm down the hall from the suspect's room, but he was also extremely shaken up by what happened to him. He was able to confirm for us exactly what he heard and saw in the moments before he was shot. Mary Lou Danley, the suspect's live-in girlfriend, we are still speaking with Miss Danley about the suspect's movements, gun purchases, and anything else we need to know about him and how he had planned his assault. And who he came in contact with during the planning phase. We have uncovered no evidence to show there was a second shooter. We have uncovered over 200 instances of the suspects traveling throughout Las Vegas, and he has never been seen with anyone else. We have no evidence or intelligence that the suspect was linked or had affiliation with any known terrorist groups or ideologies. In coordination with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, a comprehensive picture is being drawn as to the suspect's mental state, and currently we do not believe there is one particular event in the suspect's life for us to key on. We believe he decided to take the lives he did, and he had a very purposeful plan that he carried out. So where are we at with the property retrieval? As of yesterday, the personal effects of concert goers as well as items that belong to the victims are now being returned at the Family Assistance Center located at the Convention Center. They have located items from lots A, B, C, and D. They have placed them in those categories, and if you go to FBI.gov and click on the banner associated with the 1 October shooting, it will define which lots are being available as we speak. As far as I know from visiting there earlier today, lots A and B are available, and C and D are yet to be determined. First and most important is I want to say the FBI, the Red Cross, and City and County Fire are doing an amazing job. This is not an easy task to undertake, but their process is efficient. And even though we have been talking about the numbers of people who attended the concert and the number of victims injured or killed, you really don't understand the magnitude until you see the rows and tables of personal belongings that are left behind as the people fled the venue. So moving forward, we anticipate being at the Route 91 site for at least another week, along with the room at the Mandalay Bay. As I've said from day one, we want to figure out the why to this, and we'd like to know the motive. That is our most important goal, to prevent any further action associated with another individual who is contemplating this, or what exactly went along in the suspect's mind to enable him to pull off such a complicated event. So moving forward, barring any critical information obtained during the week, the next press conference will be conducted at the end of the week Friday. So at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
There's a deposition that came out today from 2013 that said he was taking Valium. Have you found any medications?
We have found some evidence of medications. I'm not at liberty to discuss that.
Can you tell us about the note? Was that to cause damage? What were those notes?
What note?
The note that was in the suspect's room.
There was not a note in the suspect's room. We recovered a document that had numbers associated to it, and I'm not at liberty to make a guess on what that was for. It could be. We're figuring that out.
Sheriff, also in the suspect's room, according to accounts we heard last night, there were drills. According to other accounts, the guard, Jesus Campos, heard drilling in the room. What drilling was done, and what do you think it was to accomplish?
So the question is, what drilling was done, or what was the intent of the suspect? There was drilling done, It was to the doorway, adjacent wall to the doorway. And just an assumption would be to either place a camera or to place a rifle.
Can I follow that?
But the drilling was not completed.
Did Officer Campos hear drilling?
Yes, he did.
How's Mr. Campos doing? You have any
Can I finish his question, sir?
And he knocked because of the drilling?
No. There's never been anything out in the public forum about knocking. He was investigating an open door. He became of the drilling sound.
Sheriff, what time exactly did Jesus Campos sustain, the injury? What timeline? What time exactly?
Bear with me while I get that for you. Well, it's fairly simple for me to obtain. What was the question, ma'am?
Can I also ask, in the days...
What was the original question?
What time he got sustained the injury?
21:59. That would be 9:59.
Sheriff, said the gunman was practicing shooting before this incident that you know of?
No, I can't confirm that.
Sheriff, are you saying that? Sheriff, are you saying that the security guard was injured? Mr. Campos was injured at before 10 p.m. and the shots were then fired at 10 p.m. into the crowd? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I don't know where you're getting your numbers, but you are correct. He was injured prior to the mass volley of shooting.
So to follow that, he's shot at just about 10 o'clock. The shots into the crowd begin at 10:05 and go on for, we said at one point 11 minutes, but 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
So can you give us what you think?
Okay, I don't want to get in. I appreciate what you're saying, Ken.
Receipts that have been obtained from the valet security system.
Ma'am, that's not how we conduct this service, okay? If I'm presented with a question,
Because the FBI has reported that
that's not how I conduct press conferences, ma'am.
Has the official timeline changed? Because
Please stop asking your question. There's a decorum that we have here, and I will finish Mr. Ritter's question.
Thank you. So if Officer Campos or security guard Campos was shot at just before 10 o'clock, and the shots out the window, as you described them, there were
So let me help you with that, Ken, because you picked up on it. Yes, the timeline associated with the original shot and Mr. Campos has changed through investigation, as I have conveyed to you from the very beginning. And your zest for information and my zest to ensure the public safety and the calming of their minds is some things are going to change. Now, they are minute changes, okay? There's not this all-encompassing answer associated with the information that we presented before. In other words, it's not completely inaccurate. But what we have learned is Mr. Campos was encountered by the suspect prior to his shooting to the outside world. Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, you referenced the comprehension profile that's being drawn up. Can you talk about what threads your department is looking at regarding the shooter's mental condition and how important that is to your investigation?
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean by thread.
Like what avenues are you guys going down looking at his mental?
Well, as you can imagine, anything that any mental health or medical help he's had throughout his life, we're attempting to obtain any and all information associated with that. Additionally, the behavioral analysis unit from the FBI is on the ground here locally, and we're attempting to utilize their expertise in discerning those matters. What I will provide with you is behavioral analysis is in LA also, Los Angeles, while interviews with Ms. Danley are being conducted. Great.
Do you have any idea why Mr. Campos was near that room when he got shot prior to the actual...
Yes, we had an alarm associated with an open door. It was not the suspect's open door, it was another. Yes.
Were there any other writings discovered in the room, either numbers or otherwise?
I'm not aware of any. I personally am not aware of any.
Sure. Were there any diagnoses that he had that you can share? Anything about his? You talked to the medical thing as part of the investigation. Is there anything he was diagnosed with or was taken that you can comment on?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Was he diagnosed with any conditions or was he taking any
No, we don't have a complete comprehensive evaluation of his mental condition. We will provide that as we become aware of it.
Sir, so after Mr. Campos was shot, before the mass shooting happened, did he alert security? Did they know? I'm just wondering if there's was any delay in his reporting? Or
No, he immediately upon being injured notified security of his situation. In close proximity of Mr. Campos being shot, there was also a maintenance worker that presented himself on the 32nd floor, and Mr. Campos prevented him from receiving any injuries.
Sheriff, do you think the suspect's engagement with Mr. Campos maybe sped up the timeline of the shooter?
I would not make that assumption. I'm not privy to that.
There's actually two questions.
What was Mr. Paddock doing before the shooting? Is there any evidence that he was gambling that same night, or do you have any video evidence of what he was doing?
We have a pretty comprehensive timeline prior to the shooting, but more importantly, it's up in the public forum. He was gambling the night before. I do not want to disclose his actions up to the shooting because that's part of the investigation.
To end Mr. Paddock's actions, what caused him to stop shooting out the window? Do we know?
We do not know at this point.
And then to follow, you have said earlier you believe he had an escape plan. Do you still think that?
Yeah, I mean, that's been a matter of discussion out there, whether what I said is accurate or not, and what I am comfortable with saying is what I believe. Mr. Campos, not Mr. Campos, I'm sorry, the suspect, I don't want to say the suspect's name, I will call him the suspect. We know that he attempted to shoot at the fuel tanks. We know that he had some personal protection equipment in the room. We know that the car that was down in the parking garage still contained binary explosives. So I would be comfortable in saying, which I believe, depending on the splash he made during the shooting, would it enable the first responders to be directing their attention in other locations, which would enable Mr. Paddock to just leave the hotel. And we do not know whether he had planned to cause additional harm outside of what occurred at Mandalay Bay.
Was there ever a trigger mechanism found that would have led to the car?
A trigger mechanism?
We talked about finding electronics in the room. We talked about
Oh, you mean something that would no, the explosives were not set up in order to detonate with a trigger.
So, Sheriff, is it your belief?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the security guard, and when did the police know that the security guard was shot? Before the gunshots at 10:05 p.m. or only after the active shooting began?
They weren't aware of him being shot until they met him in the hallway after exiting the elevator.
Sheriff, when did he check into the hotel? And what date did he check into the hotel?
Best of my recollection, we have information on the 25th. I had told you previously the 28th. We're trying to confirm his actions between the 25th and the 28th. I'm under the belief that he was not occupying the room between those days.
Sure. What medication specifically was he taking?
I already said that, ma'am. I can't answer that question now.
Can you address specifically, you said that you don't want to say the suspect's name. Can you just briefly talk about why that is?
Why? Because I don't want to sensationalize his actions. I believe if he doesn't have a name, nobody can relate to him.
Sure.
Yes, sir, in the back.
In recent days, we've heard reports about cell phones found in the suspect's room. How many cell phones were found, and was there any sort of indication that he might have been communicating with anybody?
Aaron, do you have that information?
I don't think it's prudent to give that out.
Okay, no, we don't have that number. I don't know the number personally.
Sure. You mentioned that something about how you had observed his movements over 200 times in the valley. Can you talk about where he was going, what he was doing?
No, I can't reach. I wish I could give you a comprehensive timeline and his movements. That would assist us in developing possible witnesses, but we're still running that down. It's still a really comprehensive evaluation of all the electronic equipment associated with this individual, and that's going to take quite some time. What I am proud of is how far we've gotten to this point. And yes, I'm frustrated. If you look in the public media, the perception that I am frustrated at the speed of this investigation, yes, I am. It isn't because nobody is not doing their job. It's because this individual purposely hid his actions leading up to this event, and it is difficult for us to find the answers to those actions. And that's why it's important for you to give me some deference, the FBI some deference, and the police department some deference to the ability to run out these leads. Now, I have noticed in the public forum several assumptions, unconfirmed statements, and actions of this individual put out there, and it makes it very difficult for us to follow the leads that we currently have when we're trying to chase our tail in other directions. And I have said this to you before, I appreciate all your help. You're a force multiplier for us because there's a lot of hidden pieces to this puzzle, but there's also a happy medium associated with that. And I will answer Mr. Ritter's question. That will be the last question.
We learned yesterday that the FBI went again to the Mesquite house. Did the FBI also go back to Reno, that house there, and the vehicles? Are we recombing? Perhaps you can tell us if we're recombing evidence.
Yes, we are. The question was, is the FBI, along with the LVMPD, revisiting the crimes or the personal property of the suspect? Yes, that is accurate. Along with the behavioral analysis detectives, they are also present, and maybe we can discern some additional evidence as a result of that revisit. Okay, thank you very much. And like I said previously, we anticipate the next press conference to be Friday. Barring any key evidence that we become aware of, we'll plan on Friday. Thank you very much. Well, welcome everybody. I'm obviously Joe Lombardo, Sheriff, Clark County, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. This press conference will probably be a little bit different than you experienced earlier. It's going to be more informational versus Q&A. So my intent today is to provide some clarification on some outstanding issues out there in the public forum on reference timeline, fuel tanks, a couple other items. And then I'll provide the opportunity for SAC Rouse of the FBI to address the audience, and then we'll have a closing of the conference. Okay? And a couple of these items I will read from the narrative because I don't want my comments to be construed or changed. So I wanted to ensure the accuracy of that. But most of this conference will be done strictly through my narrative provided to you. Okay? Okay, first and foremost, I want to give you an update on the injuries. This has been a big deal on my mind, as it has been the public, and I think it's important for you to be given an accurate picture of what is occurring associated with the injuries of the 1 October event. So as of 8 o'clock this morning, I was updated with the most current numbers. And let me back up just a minute. You know, in the early throes of this tragedy, I had advised each and every one of you that items of information were going to change. The dynamics of this investigation is far-reaching, it's wide, it's huge, and you can't expect exact answers in the early throes. My intent in the early throes were to give you the information to provide that calmness in the community to ensure that we didn't have a second player or a third player out hiding in the community intending to cause us harm. So there was no integrity question associated with that, as I've experienced through the cyberspace, questioning my integrity. I provided you the information as I knew it, and everybody in here knew it was going to change. So we will get through that. I'm not giving you 100% satisfaction associated with what I'm going to give you today, because I think some of that's going to change. And we will not know that until we're completed with this investigation. So back to where we were. I think it's important for the community of Clark County to realize we use 17 separate medical facilities to accommodate the injuries. associated with this event. And that speaks volumes for the medical community here in Las Vegas, in Clark County. And it seems to be lost in the narrative associated with this, that it was strictly a public safety, fire, and police event. No, it was including the medical community. And I think it's important for me to give them their due respect. So 17 separate medical facilities. Today's numbers, 546 reported injuries. 501 of those have been discharged. In other words, they responded to a medical facility, they were treated for their wounds, and subsequently left to seek a healing process wherever they chose to do so. 58 is still the number of individuals that have died. Now, this is the important piece. 45 individuals are still hospitalized. Some of those are in critical condition. So 58 may raise. By the grace of God, it doesn't. And we shall continue to move forward. The medical profession will provide all the medical care necessary, but sometimes it's people meet their demise outside of our control. So I'm hoping that number does not raise, but today's number is 58. The fuel tanks. I'm going to read this narrative so my words do not get changed, but I want to provide you some information in reference to the fuel tanks. It is believed the fuel tanks were fired upon with intent. McCarran's leaders have safety protocols in place which they re-examine following any safety-related incident. The leaders have already contacted experts in fuel storage out of the abundance of caution. I am more than confident that they will immediately implement any changes or security augmentations if they are so advised. I have been advised there is a very low probability that aviation fuel could be ignited by gunfire, and the tanks are outfitted for continual release of vapors. So that is the situation of the fuel tanks. Any future information that needs to be provided, reference that, will be provided by the Public Information Office out of McCarran Airport. The dates of the 25th versus the 28th. This was not breaking news, no matter who believed it to be so in this form. We were aware of the discrepancy of the 28th versus the 25th in the early parts of this investigation. What we weren't aware of is why the date of the 28th was utilized in the early portion of this, as I was provided this information as part of the person registered in the suspect's room. We have come to learn the suspect did occupy the room on the 25th, and the situation on how the room was compensated or paid for had changed, and the name as part of the registration had changed on the 28th to include Mary Lou Danley. So that was the confusion associated with that. No matter what the perception is, whether we were being non-transparent or we were attempting to be subversive, is false. I was acting on the information at the time I was provided it. The autopsy. Yes, there has been an autopsy performed on Mr. Paddock, or the suspect. In the early evaluation, there was no abnormalities observed visually. As a matter of practice in the forensic science, his brain has been shipped to an appropriate evaluation facility in order to take a microscopic evaluation of the brain. So the initial report that there was no abnormalities was a visual inspection of his brain. So it's yet to be known whether there is any abnormalities to be presented at a later date. Now the timeline. Unfortunately, great deal of my investigator's time has been preoccupied on this timeline. In the public space, the word incompetence has been brought forward, and I am absolutely offended with that characterization. This is a very dynamic event, very big event. Thousands of people involved, humans involved in documentation, and every venue of information involved in this investigation. So, the information was obtained via security logs, Officer Campos himself, body-worn cameras, hotel cameras, lock interrogation, my dispatch, LVMPD dispatch, hotel and private cameras, and interviews. So imagine bringing all together to ensure that we are drawing an accurate picture. So I'll provide you a little more information on that. I still stand by the time of 21:59, 9:59. It's important that you continue to listen to me. 9:59 is important. It wasn't inaccurate when I provided it to you. The circumstances associated with it is inaccurate. Okay? I am very well aware of the MGM statement provided yesterday. I agree with their statement. I'm not in conflict with their statement. But here's what I will tell you. We were provided the time of 21:59 as a human entry into a security log. Through investigation, we have determined that Mr. Campos had encountered the barricaded door adjacent to the suspect's door at approximately 21:59. In his attempt to gain entry to the 32nd floor, he required him to ascend to another level and eventually make access to the 32nd floor. He went to the doorway that he was dispatched to originally to address the open doorway. He mitigated that situation and subsequently received fire from the suspect. When you culminate that timeline associated from the initial 21:59 to the 22:05 timeline that we are still stand by as the initial volley of fire, Mr. Campos received his wounds in close proximity to 22:05. He attempted to relay that information via his radio, and it was confirmed because he also relayed that information via his cell phone. So the timeline associated to both of those sources have been verified. 22:05, the number that was provided earlier, referenced the majority of fire upon our community. We still stand by that time, and that was done by the combination of different sources that I listed for you earlier. 22:17, 12 minutes. That is when our officers first arrived on the 32nd floor. 12 minutes. You are very well aware the suspect fired at approximately 10 minutes. Upon our arrival on the 32nd floor, the firing had ceased. We did not believe we had continually had an active shooter. At that point, we conducted evacuations of the rooms adjacent to the suspect's room, and you know the rest. So there is no conspiracy between the FBI, between LVMPD, and the MGM. Nobody is attempting to hide anything reference this investigation. The dynamics and the size of this investigation requires us to go through voluminous amounts of information in order to draw an accurate picture. My intent, like I stated earlier, is to give you information as I know it, unverified, to calm the public, not to establish a legal case. Everybody understand that? No question, sir. Now we're going to get into future of the investigation. I don't want to put a percentage of responsibility associated with this investigation because it would not make sense. But I'm here to tell you we are standing hand in hand with the FBI in the continuance of this investigation, in the beginning throes of it and in the continuance of it. Our portion at LVMPD has become contracted. My concern was the initial safety of the community, whether we had any other bad actors out there that we had to address, and I feel confident there are no other individuals intending to cause harm to our community associated with the 1 October event. Now it's become protracted, and that's where the FBI has their expertise. We are establishing the timeline of the suspect's life, his motivation, and everybody else associated with him throughout time. And it requires us to rely on the FBI's resources for that success. Nobody's acquiescing in my department to this. I am not acquiescing, and nor is the FBI coming in with a hammer and attempting to take over. This will continue to be a joint operation. With that being said, I want to give the opportunity for Aaron Rouse to provide some statements.
Thank you, Sheriff. I am Aaron Rouse. I'm the Special Agent in charge for the FBI in Las Vegas. In support of our partner, from the beginning, we established a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week command post with agents, analysts, task force officers, and many support personnel. We have deployed over 200 employees from across the FBI to Las Vegas, including many with specialized positions. Globally, we have hundreds of agents covering every facet of this investigation. Nothing will be overlooked. We have made significant progress. To date, we have found no signs of ideology or affiliation to any groups. Hundreds of interviews have been conducted so far. Close to 2,000 leads have been covered so far. Extensive review of digital media on a multitude of devices is ongoing. Over 1,000 pieces of evidence have been collected and are being reviewed by the FBI laboratory. Hours and hours of video footage from hotels continues to be reviewed. FBI victim specialists from across the country are here assisting victims and families of the victims. More than 1,800 victim questionnaires have been completed, and the return of personal property continues. We continue to ask you, if you have factual information in furtherance of this investigation, please call us. If you know something, say something. The number is 1-800-CALL-FBI. The FBI, nor our partner, we don't rush to conclusions. We ask for your patience and will not comment on specifics of this investigation while it is in process. This is in keeping with the long-standing FBI tradition. As I said from the beginning, this is our city. It is your city. Las Vegas is a resilient city, a microcosm of a resilient nation. While we grieve as a community, we will use that energy to learn as much as we can about this horrible crime so that we may prevent another one from happening. I thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. So before we close out today, I want to provide you another written narrative. I want to read verbatim in support. In other words, bring a better light to what's occurred and the carnage that is associated with our community. There's some bright spots, and I don't want anybody to take offense when I've completed my comments today. There's 1,000 heroes out there, but I'm going to bring it home to my department, and I think it's important for you to hear it. So The first narrative: in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, Sergeant Garrett Everett arrived at Reno and Haven and saw the need for medical triage area. For hours, Sergeant Everett and other LVMPD officers, along with the off-duty nurses, paramedics, and firefighters, triaged at least 50 gunshot victims. They ran out of tourniquets and began using anything they could find to stop the bleeding, to include their own hobble devices they used during the normal course of their duties. These officers calmly took care of the wounded and the dying as they waited for medical transport, at times placing the critical victims on the backs of trucks so they could get them to the hospital quickly. Not all the victims made it out as the night wore on. Those same officers were assigned to guard the deceased victims, not allowing any of them to be left alone. So the undersheriff and myself, Kevin McMahill, took it upon ourselves to go out and visit some of my officers yesterday to discuss their mental state, to thank them, and check on their overall condition. These particular officers sustained some substantial wounds, and some of them you have heard in the public forum already, and some you haven't. But there's a couple key individuals I want you to write about. And one of them is Brady Cook. Brady sustained 4 separate gunshot wounds. And when I say separate, that's entries and exits. It's not actually 4 separate bullets. And an important piece on Brady is the suspect was firing upon the crowd. As our officers started to arrive via vehicles, which Brady was occupying one, it is readily apparent to me that he adjusted his fire and directed it toward the police vehicles. So the response of those individuals, I believe, saved lives. No matter what his personal vendetta is against the police or not, maybe he was preventing the wolf from getting to his door sooner than later, but he chose to fire upon the police vehicles. Brady sustained a substantial wound to his shoulder, through his bicep, into his chest, and out his back. And the reason why I bring this one up, he asked me if he could go back to work today. Samuel Whitwer. Excuse me for my emotion. Samuel was laying on his couch with a very intensive wound to his leg. During the melee and his attempt to evacuate victims, he sustained a broken leg. But he remained on scene and provided security for the medical personnel. So at this point, I want to thank the community. I want to thank you for letting me be your sheriff and Vegas strong. Thank you.